Hi everyone and welcome to Bonnie Astrology. Today I'm going to be discussing your horoscope for 2025. This is a pretty exciting year from an astrological perspective as the North Node moves into Pisces in January, and there will be a continuation of the Pisces and Virgo eclipses this year. We have a lunar eclipse in Virgo in March of 2025. In April, we do have a solar eclipse in Aries, wrapping up the Aries Libra eclipses of the last 2 years. And in September, we have a lunar eclipse in Pisces and a solar eclipse in Virgo. So Pisces and Virgo placements are well and truly in the spotlight in 2025, and these eclipses will bring about a lot of destined and fated change to the Pisces and Virgo parts of our charts. We also have the continuation of the Mars retrograde in Leo and Cancer up until February of this year. And then we also have a Venus retrograde in Aries and Pisces in the spring. And as well as that, Jupiter is moving from Gemini into Cancer, Cancer being the sign of its exaltation, which is bringing a lot of blessings to the Cancerian parts of our chart. Jupiter is not the only planet that is changing signs this year, though. Saturn is moving from Pisces into Aries, but will retrograde back into Pisces. Uranus is moving into Gemini this year, but again, will also retrograde back into the sign of Taurus. Neptune, like Saturn, is going to be moving from Pisces into Aries, but will retrograde back into Pisces as well, bringing a lot of change as the outer planets change signs. So this is going to be a very significant year for all of us. To find out what it means for you, you can click ahead to the timestamp listed in the description. And if you do want a personal reading with me to see what this year means for your individual natal chart, the information listed in the description is the only place that you can get me. I do have a website full of services. So I'm wishing you all a very blessed and prosperous 2025, and I will talk to you soon. Bye. Hi Aries, welcome to 2025 and a very happy new year to you, Aries. So Aries, I want to start with your ruler Mars. Mars is going to be retrograde at the very beginning of the year until the 23rd of February. So if you feel that you're entering the year with not as much energy, or you're not necessarily feeling ambitious or as energetic as you usually do, just be patient with yourself. Mars goes direct on the 23rd. Mars retrograde is occurring in your home and family sector, which means you might be beginning this year with some concerns over family matters, a living situation, or property developments. From June, Jupiter, the great benefic, enters this sector, meaning that your home and your family and property matters may very well be very blessed in the second half of the year. There could be a new beginning there for you on the 25th of June when the new moon is conjunct Jupiter in your home and family sector. Jupiter also meets Venus in August, bringing blessings and abundance to your home, living situation, and family matters. So you may see significant improvements when it comes to property, when it comes to home, when it comes to family in the second half of the year, which may be even better thanks to the reflection you've been doing with Mars retrograde in your fourth house at the very beginning of the year, reflecting on the energy and the action that you put into things such as home, family, and property matters. You will see a lot of blessings there in the second half of 2025. Now, you have quite a lot of personal goals this year, Aries. The North Node is leaving your sign in January, but we do have a partial solar eclipse in your sign on the 29th of March. And this is ruled by Mars in your fourth house at the time. Mars will be direct at this point. This solar eclipse may mark a new beginning for you personally, Aries, when it comes to a home, property matter, or a living situation. It might also bring a significant change for you when it comes to your family. For some of you, this could be that you are becoming a parent. For some of you, it could be that you're buying a property. For some of you, it could be that you are committing to living a life quite differently from your family or the homeland that you grew up in. Nevertheless, Aries, it is a personal new beginning for you, a personal goal, a personal responsibility, something that changes you and how you're living. Saturn enters your sign on the 25th of May for a short stay. Saturn will be there until the 1st of September, joined by Neptune, which will enter Aries on the 30th of March to the 22nd of October. And in these time periods, you may notice with Saturn that you're becoming more serious, more dedicated, more committed to something, perhaps professionally. As Saturn rules your 10th house, you might have to be more front and center at your job. Having done a lot of effort behind the scenes, a lot of work behind the scenes, you might be stepping forward to take a more direct and visible role when it comes to your career. You may also have more personal goals when it comes to your health. And this is in part because we do have eclipses in your 6th house this year as well, Aries. There is a total lunar eclipse in your 6th house on the 14th of March, and it's ruled by Mercury in your sign. You will be rethinking your health. You'll probably be rethinking what you eat, what you drink, how you exercise, and your routines. And you're probably going to be making some changes for the sake of your health this year, Aries. This may similarly happen in September when we have a partial solar eclipse in your 6th house at that point as well, although this is more likely to change a working relationship, perhaps with a colleague, a co-worker, an employee. There may be changes in your workplace this year more generally. Maybe you're changing your job. Maybe you are changing your place of work, the role that you provide, the services that you provide. But for a lot of you, it really could be that you're more committed to bettering your health and letting go of some habits or routines that are no longer healthy or work for you. You might see a nutritionist this year, a personal trainer. You might test yourself for allergies. You may notice with Neptune in your 1st house, Aries, that you generally become a little bit more sensitive, whether that be to the energies around you or to different smells, different, lotions, things that you use on your body. Sometimes allergies just come out of nowhere that were not obvious before, and Neptune going through your sign can absolutely bring that about. So you may find yourself giving up certain creams or certain foods or something that suddenly becomes an irritant. You may also be a lot more spiritual this year, Aries, with Neptune being in your sign. You may feel more empathic, more sensitive to energies. And with the North Node in your 12th house, you may be going on a spiritual healing journey this year. A lot of Aries risings could become more spiritual, more interested in spiritual topics, learning about the spiritual side of the world, seeing psychics, mystics, healers, tarot readers, and also focusing on their healing journey. So perhaps setting up with a therapist or a counselor or a Reiki healer or a shaman, really exploring the more spiritual and energetic side of the world and maybe having more spiritual or paranormal experiences. This is also going to be a time when you're really focused on your mental health. And you may make changes from an emotional or spiritual level in September, Aries, with the total lunar eclipse in your 12th house, which will be ruled by Neptune in your 1st house. So you may be feeling called to let go of something or perhaps end a chapter in your life that you no longer wish to continue. Maybe you feel that it is not good for your mental or emotional or spiritual health. It does feel like an eclipse where you may suddenly have a spiritual epiphany or a change in your relationship to the divine. You might see signs and synchronicities that tell you what path to go down around the time of this total lunar eclipse. And it may be a time when you're really focused on your emotional well-being, Aries, and you're really focused on taking care of yourself, mind, body, and soul this year. We do have some interesting changes coming to your 3rd house of your local environment. So your neighborhood, your neighbors, this is also to do with your siblings. It's to do with short-term trips, so short-term travel, road trips. It can also be to do with your car, your general commute with the 3rd house, and also the information that you're learning. Jupiter is going to be there until the 10th of June, meaning that these are areas that can benefit. You might get a new car. You might get on really well with your neighbors. You might get on better with your siblings. You might benefit through these people. You might notice that there are a lot of blessings come through your local community, or you might attend some very interesting and mentally stimulating workshops, Aries. But Uranus enters this sector from the 7th of July to the 8th of November. So it is a brief stint, but it talks about a wider cycle that's coming up. And you might notice that the people that surprise you the most this year are your siblings, your neighbors, your cousins, your aunts, your uncles, or you might attend some really interesting short courses. I could see with the North Node in Pisces for you, Aries, attending breathwork workshops or attending spiritual events or spiritual festivals where you learn about things that you were maybe not aware of before that really help you expand your mind and your spiritual side, Aries. Now, there is a Venus retrograde, and this is going to affect your relationships. Venus goes retrograde in your sign from the 2nd of March to the 27th of March, retrogrades into Pisces from the 27th of March to the 12th of April, when it will go direct. Do not make any changes to your personal and physical appearance. This is not a time to drastically change anything, or absolutely not a time to do anything permanent. So, no tattoos, for example, at this time, no significant cosmetic procedures. You're unlikely to like the results. And I would say, more generally, buying clothes or makeup or anything that can change your aesthetic at this time, you'll probably not like it a couple of months down the line. So just be mindful of that. Venus retrograde in your sign, though, you might be reflecting on your relationships, your significant other, your partnerships, or what you want from relationships, and really rethinking your approach to it. How is it working for you? How are your needs being met? Or do you know what your needs are in relationships? Really reflecting on what it is that you want from relationships, what it is that you need from relationships, and how you're doing, and what your approach is and how it's serving you. For some of you, with Venus retrograding back into the 12th house, you might uncover some self-sabotaging habits or beliefs when it comes to your relationships, or some secrets when it comes to your relationships, and you may reflect more generally on how these relationships are working for you. For some of you, you may feel inclined to reconnect with someone from the past. It doesn't have to be a romantic partner, but with the North Node and Venus connecting with Venus retrograde in Pisces, you may be looking backwards in order to move forward. So perhaps you reconnect with someone from the past that is actually going to help you get to where you need to go. As I said, it doesn't have to be romantic, but this is generally a time when you may reflect on your relationships more generally. A significant time when it comes to romantic relationships or partnerships more generally is April, when we have a full moon in your 7th house of relationships, ruled by Venus in Pisces conjunct Saturn and the North Node. This is a clear time of understanding where a relationship is going or what needs to change in an existing relationship, or it may be a time when a relationship comes into the spotlight or comes into your life. This is marked by seriousness and commitment within this partnership. So current relationships could be tested, or they could have a chance to recommit or commit deeper. It could also be a time when you meet someone that you view to be relationship potential, or you decide that you want to commit to a significant relationship in your life, Aries, with someone who maybe feels like a soulmate with Venus, Saturn, and the North Node in the 12th house. Someone that maybe feels healing to you, or someone who helps you get in touch with your spiritual side, or a relationship that connects you with your spiritual side more generally. That is what I have for you, Aries. I hope you have a wonderful year, and I will talk to you soon. Hi Taurus, welcome to your 2025 horoscope and a very happy new year, Taurus. So Taurus, this year we have a lot of focus on your social connections. The North Node is moving into your 11th house on the 12th of January and will be there for the rest of the year. And we have a lunar eclipse in this sector on the 7th of September, ruled by Neptune in Aries and Jupiter in Cancer. You might notice that there are a lot of changes happening for you this year, Taurus, when it comes to your friendships. A lot of you could meet some very destined friendships this year. So people that you're just simply meant to know, people that can help you get to where you need to go, people that feel like they're helping you grow and develop as a person. You may have more opportunities to socialize this year, to network, to connect with various different types of people. For a lot of you, it could be people from all over the world with Pisces, or people who are quite spiritual in nature. You might meet a lot of people at spiritual events like festivals or workshops or something of that nature. Taurus, you might connect with people from all over the world, as I said before, as Pisces does rule foreign locations. It can also be a year of testing for some friendships of yours. So longer term friendships may be tested with Saturn being there. But with Saturn being in your 11th house, you can also learn a lot through your friendships and learn a lot about how you connect with others when it comes to friendship. And it can sometimes bring about important lessons. For example, if you're not a particularly social person and then you realize that you would actually quite like to have friendships, it can push you to get out there and meet people. With Saturn being there, we can learn through difficult interactions with friends, groups, and teams as well, Taurus. So you might notice there's some karma to work out with a group or a team. This can also be a year where you're becoming more focused on charity or, causes that you really feel very strongly about. You may become more active when it comes to charities or humanitarian endeavors or causes with the North Node going through Pisces. And with Venus retrograde from the 27th of March to the 12th of April in Pisces, It is also retrograde in Aries. I'll cover that in a second, part of the same cycle. You may be reflecting on friendships, and this may be a time when you're sort of pruning what friendships do and do not work for you, what friendships are no longer coming forward, and what friendships maybe you're realizing are there to stay. So it can be a testing period with groups, teams, and friendships, and there can be changes going on when it comes to the teams that you're a part of and the groups that you socialize with, Taurus. I also want to talk about your 12th house because that's quite activated this year as well. We do have a partial solar eclipse in your 12th house on the 29th of March, and this is ruled by Mars in Cancer. I think for a lot of you, you could be letting go, as this is happening in your sector of letting go of a particular way of communicating, Taurus. So maybe you don't say what you mean directly, or maybe you find it hard to speak up, or maybe you're wanting to focus on how you communicate, how you articulate yourself, your body language, the way that you speak. You may be focused on making some changes there so that you can communicate more confidently, I feel. With this solar eclipse, you're wanting to let go of some baggage by starting anew. You may also find yourself learning something new spiritually or embarking on a significant chapter of healing. But I think when it comes to healing, this may be to do with how you speak and how you communicate, but it can also be to do with issues or friction surrounding siblings, neighbors, perhaps short-term trips, traveling, cars, that type of thing. So for example, if some of you have ever been, hopefully you haven't, but you'd ever been in a vehicular accident, you might be using this solar eclipse as a way to do a certain type of therapy to work through that experience, for example. But this can just be a new chapter of healing for a lot of you, or working on something behind the scenes, perhaps pertaining to communication or writing for a lot of you, Taurus. Saturn is going through your 12th house from the 25th of May to the 1st of September, and so is Neptune from the 30th of March to the 22nd of October. Neptune in particular will make your dreams very vivid and will help you heal spiritually. Neptune going through the 12th house can be a time when you really heal through your alone time, you heal from your spiritual side or engaging in spiritual practices. You may find yourself becoming more psychic and more in tune with your dreams as well. Saturn going through this sector is going to help you commit to healing. So something that you want to work on spiritually or from a mental health or emotional perspective, Taurus. Now, Venus retrograde more generally as your ruling planet. The dates that Venus will be retrograde altogether will be from the 2nd of March to the 12th of April. And in this time, you're reflecting on your approach to your friendships, but also your healing. And this may be a time when you feel a little bit out of sorts, or you maybe feel like you're not as social, or you don't feel exactly like yourself, because maybe there's some drama going on with friendships, or maybe you're reflecting on your dreams and your ideals more generally so that you can, go forward with clarity on these dreams and their aspirations later, Taurus. I do think for a lot of you, you're going to notice that between the 7th of July and the 8th of November, you feel a real change in the air as Uranus leaves your sign and has a short stint in your 2nd house. This may be where you move from being motivated by personal freedom, independence, personal liberation, to maybe being more motivated by financial independence. Uranus going through the 2nd house, and I'll get to Jupiter in a second. Uranus going through the 2nd house can bring about innovative ways to make money. So making money through the internet, making money through ways you never thought you could or would before, making money through technology, or maybe even from writing, as it's in Gemini. Jupiter is going to bless this sector until the 10th of June. This is when you can benefit the most financially. So make sure that as you're making more money with Jupiter going through the 2nd house, that you're also putting some of it away and saving it for a rainy day, as there could be some unexpected expenses from the 7th of July to the 8th of November. Some financial changes could be in store for you in that time period, Taurus. But when Uranus returns to your sign from the 8th of November, you're going to feel that call for freedom again, wanting to live authentically, wanting to be free, whatever that means to you. The freedom to express yourself and be who you are is going to be fundamentally very important to you, Taurus. Jupiter is going to enter your 3rd house from the 10th of June. And on the 25th of June, we have a new moon there. A lot of you are going to be really blessed when it comes to writing or when it comes to social media, maybe putting out a podcast, a book, a novel, an article. You're going to be really blessed if you're into writing, journalism, media, that type of thing. you might have a very positive new beginning happen there from the 25th of June. For some of you, it could be a new car. A lot of you could take more short-term trips. Short distance traveling could become more common for you. It could also be more lucky for you, where you have positive experiences on short-term trips. You may also find for some of you, you get on better with your siblings, your neighbors. Sometimes when Jupiter goes through the third house, you befriend your neighbors, or you get closer to your siblings, or you just more generally feel like a star in your local community. But taking short-term trips that aren't involving long distance travel will really benefit you at this time, Taurus, with Jupiter going through your third house. It's going to benefit us all in different ways, but I think for you, putting your communicative side out there, getting your thoughts out there, you'll also benefit from taking short-term classes, taking courses, taking workshops. You can really benefit through this particular sector and even meet new relationships through this particular sector, as Jupiter is likely to trine your descendant in 2025. So you could meet someone significantly locally through a short trip, or taking a workshop if you're looking for a relationship, Taurus. So bear that in mind. And speaking of your relationships, Mars is going to transit your relationship sector from the 22nd of September to the 4th of November. Mars rules your relationship sector, so you might notice this is a very positive time for passion in your relationships, or meeting someone that you feel very passionate about. Now, the South Node is going through your 5th house of love and romance, meaning that you may be doing some healing when it comes to your love life this year, Taurus. If you've had your heart broken before, this may be a year that you heal through your experiences in the 5th house. So healing through dating, healing through meeting someone romantically, or maybe even reconnecting and rekindling with someone who was a romantic interest in the past. It doesn't have to be someone who was a long-term relationship though. It could be someone that you maybe went on 1 or 2 dates with at one point, or you fancied at one point where it never got off the ground. You may reconnect with someone romantically. Or you may have karmic experiences with people you date. This can also be a time when you're focusing on healing the romantic aspect of your current relationship if you're in one. So making sure that you go on dates with your partner, you bring more romance into the relationship. There could be romantic changes for you, particularly in September with a partial solar eclipse in your 5th house. For some Taurus risings, this year could also be a pregnancy year, because we do have a total lunar eclipse in your 5th house in March, ruled by Mercury in your 12th. The 5th house and the 12th house both have connections to pregnancy and birth. So some of you could be getting pregnant, giving birth, having children in 2025. Obviously that doesn't apply to all of you. So for some of you, it could be a time when you maybe fall in love with someone who feels like a soulmate, feels familiar, or reconnect with someone from the past. Or for the artists among you, Taurus, it's a great year to be a writer as an artist for Taurus risings, or someone who puts their art out through podcasts or media. You may get a lot of attention and feel more creatively inspired this year by healing any walls that you have to your creativity. So healing anything that holds you back creatively, Taurus, could be really helpful for you this year. The South Node, where it goes, it brings healing. So healing to your love life, healing to your relationship to your children, healing through these areas, healing through your creativity and your art, and also healing your relationship to fun. Sometimes we can feel shame or guilt around having fun or pleasure in this lifetime, and that might be something that you're working through healing this year as well, Taurus. Pluto is in your 10th house all year. It's the first full year of Pluto in Aquarius, and we have a new moon there on the 22nd of January, which may put you in a position of changing your career. Be mindful of some power struggles with authority figures or bosses this year, but I think for a lot of you, you may be focused on changing your career path to be something that feels more authentic to you, something that feels in alignment with your soul, Taurus, and you may improve your career this year through networking and making social connections. It's not a year to sit at home. That's what I have for you, Taurus, and I will talk to you soon. Hi Gemini, happy 2025. This is your horoscope for the year ahead. So Gemini, I want to start with your 1st house. So Jupiter is going to be in your sign until the 10th of June, and this is bringing you a lot of opportunity on a personal level. This may bring you some opportunity or positive energy when it comes to your image, when it comes to your physical body, when it comes to your personality. So this might be a year where you're making some physical changes in order to benefit more greatly from these changes. So whether that be for aesthetic purposes or for health purposes, you may be benefiting from the changes that you're making when it comes to your physical body or when it comes to your attitude to life. You may feel more optimistic, more open-hearted, and more adventurous while Jupiter is in your sign. But one thing that is going to change this year for you, Gemini, is that Uranus is entering your sign for the first time in your lifetime. And this is pretty significant for all of us collectively, but for you, because it's your sign, you're going to feel this the most. Uranus is entering your sign from the 7th of July to the 8th of November. So while this is brief, while this is a short stint, you may notice the energies when it comes to how you approach life changing. You may be more focused on your personal freedom. You may need a little bit more independence. You might find that you are surprising yourself and others through different decisions, different types of approaches that you're taking. With Uranus in your first house, you may be seeking more freedom and independence more generally. You may also switch up your style. You may wear clothes that no one would ever have seen you wearing. You know, it could be that if you were always the type of person that was in a shirt and tie, you now find yourself wearing more light, floaty, fun colors or something of that nature, something that's a little bit different to the way that you styled yourself before. But just your approach to life more generally, you're focused on freedom, you're thinking outside of the box, and you may seem to others at times to be a little bit more unusual than you've been previously, Gemini. But you are going to be needing more independence and more freedom. So you might be doing something a little bit different or outside of the box in that time period, Gemini. Now, we also have a lot of changes happening for you this year when it comes to your career, your goals, or your public image. So there seem to be some fated changes occurring here at Gemini. You've been putting in a lot of hard work when it comes to your career, when it comes to your personal goals since 2023, with Saturn being in that sector. You may also have had more of an idealistic or altruistic approach. So maybe you have been really focusing on doing a career where you feel you can give back to others, you feel you can help others, with Neptune transiting that sector. You may also have at times moments of unconditional love for your career, and if you don't, this may be a year where you're seeking a direction that you feel is a little bit more spiritual, is a little bit more altruistic, where you can help others and you can help maybe guide others or lead others when it comes to your career. For those of you that are in medicine, for example, this may be a year where you're really focused on helping others heal, or you are a healer, for those of you that have that as a professional title of some sort, you know, whether that be nurse, doctor, shaman, Reiki, whatever the case may be, nutritionalist, any kind of person that helps others heal. Gemini, you may be seeking more spiritual fulfillment from your career more generally, and you may also have these very intense intuitive hits about what you need to do next. Even if it's not a career path where it's in any way spiritual, you may be bringing a more creative energy into your career, and you may have some very destined opportunities coming up for you this year, Gemini. There could be some significant changes happening for you, particularly in September, with a total lunar eclipse in your 10th house. This could be for some of you when you retire. This could be for some of you that you wrap up your time at a particular company, you close a business. It could also be a time where you take over a business, or you reach a professional milestone, or your boss retires and you have an opportunity to stand up. It may also be a time when you get clarity in your career of what it is that you want to do. That lunar eclipse in Pisces is going to be ruled by Jupiter in Cancer and Neptune in Aries. Both Jupiter and Neptune co-rule Pisces. And with Jupiter being for you, Gemini, in your second house of money, you may benefit quite significantly financially from this career change that's taking place. But with Neptune in the 11th house, you may also connect to others more spiritually, or as I said before, through charitable interests, you know, helping others, with Neptune being in the 11th house at that point. And let's discuss the 11th house as well. For you, Gemini, Saturn is going to be entering your 11th house from the 25th of May to the 1st of September. We'll retrograde back into Pisces after that. So we do have this mix of 10th house, 11th house energy for you this year, Gemini, making you more career, goal, ambition, aspiration oriented. But Saturn going through your 11th house can test your friendships, and at times it can feel a little bit socially isolating. With Saturn there, it may be a time where old friendships you realize you have outgrown, or they have served some sort of karmic learning purpose for you. You might be surprised at the friendships that you let go of, or you begin to move away from or drift from. But you may also be surprised to see who your real friends really are. And this may be something that fills you with an energy of gratitude and unconditional love, with Neptune transiting that sector from the 30th of March to the 22nd of October. You could connect with some really beautiful, loving friendships where you feel you connect on a spiritual level and an emotional level. But as I said, with Saturn there, you may also realize you've outgrown certain friendships too. You may also commit more seriously to your aspirations and your wishes. You may be more focused on making a dream a reality, Gemini. With the partial solar eclipse in that sector on the 29th of March, there could be a change to a team, a group, or a friendship in your life. That could be that maybe you're joining a new team, maybe there's new members joining a team. Maybe it is that you have a new goal, and this new goal may be financially motivated. You might have something that you really want to work on at this time, Gemini, and a dream that you want to make a reality. As the eclipse is ruled by Mars in your financial sector, this might be something that is financially motivated, or something where you get to use a natural God-given talent to your advantage. But I do think for a lot of you, there could be changes in your friendships and your social groups this year, Gemini. It will really test your friendships to see which ones are true and which ones have reached their expiry date, so to speak. And another reason you might be reflecting on the sector, Gemini, is because from the 2nd of March to the 27th of March, Venus is retrograde in this sector. Now, on the one hand, this can cause friction and discord in relationships that are otherwise pleasant from a team, group, friendship perspective. It can also be a time when you reconnect with old friends. Maybe you haven't seen someone in years and you want to reignite the friendship. That can be something that happens. You can run into people that you used to be on teams with or groups with, or people that you used to be involved with for the sake of a cause. You may reconnect with them. Venus will retrograde as well from your 10th house from the 27th of March to the 12th of April. Just to clarify, this is all the one retrograde period. Venus is retrograding through two signs rather than two separate occasions. Venus retrograde in your 10th house from the 27th of March to the 12th of April. This may be a time when you're reflecting more generally on your career and your work goals. But it can also be a time where an important career opportunity may make its way back to you, or you may have the opportunity to go back to something career-wise or goal-wise that you were once interested in. This can also be a time when you reconnect with people that you used to work with. Maybe a boss pops up on LinkedIn and says, hey, I actually have this opportunity and I was thinking of you. This Venus retrograde is significant because it's connected to the North Node and Saturn, meaning that going back can sometimes help you get to the direction that you need to go. So if people from the past career-wise pop up, do hear them out, because they might have some sort of guidance or opportunity for you career-wise, goal-wise, or when it comes to your public image. It feels for a lot of you that there could be very exciting fated opportunities for career this year if you're still working, if you're still in employment. And if you're searching for employment, Gemini, this is a really good year for you too. It feels like, along with the other mutable signs, Pisces, Virgo, and Sagittarius, your life might change quite a bit in 2025. Now, with the North Node going through your 10th house, the South Node will be going through your 4th house, which is home and family. So you might have some healing to do when it comes to your home, family, or your living sector, Gemini. There can be changes when it comes to who is living in your home. There can be changes in the life of your family around you that you notice. You know, they could be, maybe, say you have grown children, they could be having their own children, or they could be moving somewhere. You might notice there's a lot happening in your home and your family sector, your domestic life with your children. Particularly around March, there seems to be a change in your home property and living situation, Gemini. This is ruled by Mercury in your 11th house. So this may be to do with, changes in a property matter when it comes to somebody, maybe somebody in your family is making changes when it comes to their goals for the future, or they're making changes to their life when it comes to the future. It could also be for some of you that maybe you're moving or relocating. It does also feel, with the partial solar eclipse happening in your family sector in September, ruled by Mercury in Libra, which for you is your 5th house. Some of you could have family members expanding their family, having children. For example, some of you could be moving in with a romantic love interest. I do think for some of you, there could be a move this year. There could also be buying property, renovating property, perhaps also for some of you with the South Node. It could be a fixer-upper situation where you're changing something within the home that's long overdue, you know, gutting something out, clearing it out, making space within the home for new energy and really purifying the energy in the home. With it being Virgo, you're more focused on the healthiness of the home, so maybe making sure there's good air quality, that kind of thing, making sure everything's healthy. Gemini, your finances are set to improve this year when Jupiter enters your second house on the 10th of June. There's a new moon that could bring a very positive new financial beginning on the 25th. Jupiter going through the second is when you make more money. It's when there's more opportunities to make money, you get paid for something, money falls in your lap sometimes with Jupiter in the second. Always make sure with Jupiter transiting the second that if you are making more money than usual, that you're putting some of it away, because Jupiter going through the second can also ramp up our spending. Now, the only thing about that sector that is a bit troubling is that until the 23rd of February, Mars is going to be retrograde in that sector from the 6th of January to the 23rd of February, meaning that you might be a bit frustrated financially or reflecting on your finances or concerned about your finances. You could be fighting about money, irritated about money, or just find it generally frustrating. So the best thing to do at that time is to reconsider your financial actions and reconsider where you're investing your energy when it comes to your finances or where you're investing your money. As I said, in the second half of the year, there's a lot of potential for financial expansion for you more than anybody, Gemini. So that is what I have for you. I hope you have a wonderful year, and I will talk to you soon. Hi Cancer, welcome to your 2025 horoscope and a very happy new year to you, Cancer. So Cancer, you're going to be one of the luckiest signs in 2025 because Jupiter, the great benefic, is going to be entering your sign in June. And this is lovely for all of us, but for you in particular, you're going to find that this is a year of immense growth and abundance for you. And that may look different depending on what it is that you're wishing for. Jupiter is notoriously a bit of a wish granter. So usually something positive comes out of a Jupiter transit in your sign. So you might be finding that from June onwards, you're feeling more optimistic, you're feeling more expansive, and you're maybe feeling a little bit luckier, particularly in August when Venus and Jupiter meet in your first house. There may be a very lucky opportunity. There may be something happening with your appearance or aesthetic that is very pleasing to you, something that maybe you want to enhance. It can also be that in terms of your personality, you're just noticing that you feel more outgoing, you feel more open, and you feel more jovial. Naturally, with Jupiter transiting the first house. And you may also find as well that with the new moon on the 25th of June, there is some positive new beginning happening for you with your own personal goals and your own personal wants and needs, because there will be a new moon in your sign conjunct Jupiter. And if you're born around the 25th, you're going to notice that energy more particularly because it's going to emphasize your solar return. Now, one thing that isn't so easy for you is at the beginning of the year, Cancer, we do have the Mars retrograde in your sign from the 6th of January to the 24th of February. 23rd, 24th, depending on where you are in the world. And this can be a time of reflection and review for you when it comes to your health and your well-being, how you're taking care of yourself, where you're putting your energy and your personal goals, or what you're putting your personal precious energy into. You may be rethinking how much of that you're doing or where you are distributing your energy. And this may be a time where you feel a little bit run down health-wise. But just know Jupiter going through the first house tends to positively enhance your health. Whether that be that you say, for example, you have a health ailment, you get the treatment that you need, you get the right person to work on something for you, you're more hopeful when it comes to your health and your well-being, and you find opportunities that help you with your personal health. It's just that the Mars retrograde period may have you reflecting on how you take care of yourself, and this can lead to great growth. So say, for example, some of you may think, actually, do you know what, I don't enjoy this lifestyle, and you're thinking about that in January, February, and you're starting to review how you look after yourself. In the second half of the year, you can really feel the benefit of that. Now, one thing that does seem to be happening for you in 2025, Cancer, is a focus on travel for a lot of you. The North Node is going to be entering Pisces on the 12th of January, and for you, this is activating your travel sector. When the North Node travels through the traveling house, it can bring fated opportunities to travel. So you could have an opportunity to travel through your job, or, say for example, you could win a holiday, or you might have an opportunity to go somewhere you thought you never would go or never could go, but fate has ideas. A lot of the time with the North Node, fated changes tend to occur that are outside of our own actions. So as I said, this can be opportunities come up to take a trip or to travel for fate and destiny purposes. But I do think with Saturn being there as well, you're maybe a little bit more wary of where you travel, or you're maybe somewhat restricted in that if you are traveling, say for example, you have to, bring something or someone that would be, I guess, a little bit of a responsibility. So maybe if you're traveling, you're having to bring your children, or you're having to travel for work, or you're having to travel for something of that nature. But Saturn does move into Aries from the 27th of May to the 1st of September, which for you, Cancer, is going to be your career sector. And not only that, Neptune is entering that sector from the 30th of March to the 22nd of October. In that period, you may start to consider your personal goals and achievements when it comes to your career. Now, Saturn can oftentimes bring more responsibility and more commitment when it comes to your career sector. But for some of you that are not working, this can be a personal goal or achievement that you're working on, or you're working on your public image more generally. So that can be what you're known for. Whether you are working or retired, it can be what you're known for, how other people would regard you. So maybe some of you have a personal goal in mind that you're going to get very serious about, or responsibility might amp up during the summer in your work sector. You might notice that you have more duties or responsibilities. Sometimes it can bring a promotion, and sometimes it can bring a redirection to a job that feels more fulfilling to you, Cancer. With Neptune being there, I also think that you're likely to want to bring a sense of charity to your work sector. So you might get involved with a charity through your job, or you might want to do something that career-wise helps other people. And that can vary, but it depends on what it is that you think would be helpful. A lot of the time with Neptune, it is a very compassionate energy. And in the 10th house of ambition, you may have the ambition to help others. You may have the ambition to help others through your job or through your work, or maybe even reroute to a career that is a little bit more compassionate in its nature, Cancer. Uranus is going to enter your 12th house for a brief period. Uranus enters your 12th house from the 7th of July to the 8th of November before settling in next year. But Uranus going through your 12th house can be a really interesting time for you when it comes to your inner world and your healing journey. Now, Jupiter is going to be there until June. So a good portion of the year, this will be activated for you, Cancer. And this sort of suggests to me for you that perhaps you're really focusing on something behind the scenes. It could be your healing. It could be your well-being. You may feel a little bit more introverted. You may feel a little bit quieter during this time period. But with Uranus going through there, your healing journey could become quite eccentric. So maybe for some of you, you may try something alternative when it comes to your healing and your well-being. And you may also find yourself learning a secret that surprises you during this time period. Now, of course, we have a total lunar eclipse in Pisces in September in your 9th house. So for a lot of you, you could be traveling. But for some of you that are still in education or are seeking education, this could be a point of culmination when it comes to examinations, results, or a process of applying to university or college, or starting university or college. For a lot of you, this could mark a change in your academic career. So maybe for some of you, you're going to be getting that master's degree. I think for a lot of you with this one, it's particularly lucky for you, Cancer, because it is ruled by Jupiter in your sign, and is also co-ruled by Neptune in your 10th house. I feel like for a lot of you, this could be traveling or education linked to a personal goal or achievement for a lot of you. We do have eclipses happening in Virgo as well for you, which is your 3rd house. So with the South Node going through the 3rd house, you may be finding yourself taking less short distance trips. You might find yourself changing your car or your vehicle. There can be opportunities to travel short term though that are quite fated for some of you, Cancer. So with the total lunar eclipse in Virgo on the 14th of March, It is ruled by Mercury in your 10th house. You may decide if you travel a lot, particularly if it's short-term travel, Cancer, you may decide that you don't want to do this anymore. Maybe you feel you're wrapping up, or what would be the expression for that? Maybe you're racking up too many miles in your car for your job. Maybe there's a change in your commute when it comes to your job. Maybe you're taking a short trip for work and you're reconsidering your career position. Mercury's in retrograde at that point, so you're reconsidering your career generally, but it could be linked to short-term travel. It could also be that you need a certification or some sort of training when it comes to your work around this time. And we also have a partial solar eclipse in this sector in September as well. And it's ruled by Mercury in your 4th house. So I think for a lot of you, there could be changes when it comes to perhaps your local community or your local environment. Maybe your neighbors are changing. Maybe there is something changing locally that affects your home. With the eclipses, it can be notoriously hard to pinpoint what that might be, but there might be changes in your neighborhood. There might be changes in your local community. There could be changes if you live with a sibling or a cousin or something of that nature. There could be changes happening there for you as well. Cancer. Now, there's a Venus retrograde this year. It's from the 2nd of March to the 12th of April. It's going to retrograde in your 10th house from the 2nd of March to the 27th of March, and then it's going to retrograde in your 9th house from the 27th of March to the 12th of April. The Venus retrograde in your 10th house is not a good time to make significant changes career-wise, but I do think for a lot of you, you're reflecting on your career, Cancer. And because Venus rules your 4th house, you may also be thinking of your career through the context of your living situation and how this works for you and your family, if you have family, or how it works for your living environment. Maybe you have a remote working setup or something of that nature, but you're more generally reflecting on your career and how happy or fulfilled you feel at it. With Venus retrograde in your 9th house through the 27th of March to the 12th of April, this isn't the easiest time to travel, as you may find that if you do travel, people might not necessarily act the way that you would have expected them to. There can be some errors in social graces. People might not necessarily be as pleasant because Venus represents charm and grace and things like that. And when it's retrograde, you can sometimes have encounters that are not so great. And in the 9th house, this can be to do with traveling. However, this can also be when you travel somewhere that you used to go quite a lot and you return to it. This might also be a time that if you're in university or college that you perhaps are finding relationships are a little bit strained with people that you go to university with, or teachers, for example. Just a note on the North Node in Pisces. So some of you may get teachers this year that are really meant to be in your path. Someone that you remember forever, someone who really, leaves a mark on your soul. You really remember them for the rest of your life, as the North Node does rule fated encounters, and the 9th house is to do with teachers, or even universities, colleges, or things of that nature for you, Cancer. So there's a lot going on this year. I think the main thing for you to be excited about is Jupiter being in your sign from June onwards. You're going to feel more lucky, optimistic, and it can be a time of great personal growth and joy. And in some cases, if you are, for example, Cancer, looking to conceive this year, Jupiter going through the 1st house can be a positive omen of that, as Jupiter tends to expand the body, and that can coincide with pregnancies, of course. It can also mean that if you're looking to build muscle, for example, that is something else that can be easier to do while Jupiter goes through your 1st house, depending on your own personal goals, of course. I hope you have a wonderful year, Cancer, and I will talk to you soon. Hi Leo, very happy new year to you, Leo. Welcome to your 2025 horoscope. So Leo, we have quite a lot of activity happening this year in your 8th house, which means that it's probably going to be quite a transformative year, and also a year to face some of your fears. Where the North Node goes, and the North Node is going to enter your 8th house in January 12th to be precise. Where the North Node goes, we grow. And the 8th house is the house of fears and phobias. So oftentimes this means that during a North Node in the 8th house transit, we can feel a calling to, or experience, we're feeling a calling to face a fear, or we may be experiencing a fear in order to grow and evolve and conquer that fear. So there may be some things that you feel that you're quite scared of, or you're afraid of, and you might decide to face it. This can be a year where you connect more deeply with others and you have profound emotional experiences, possibly intense ones, that really help you connect deeper to other people, whether that be a partner, whether that be a friendship, whether that be connecting more generally in your relationships. It can help you go that bit deeper. Now, Saturn is there as well until the 25th of May, but will return to your 8th house on the 1st of September via retrograde. In between those periods, Saturn is going to be going through Aries, which is your 9th house. So, with Saturn going through your 8th house, this can sometimes coincide with uh, financial obligations and commitments, particularly with another person. So, that can be getting a mortgage with your partner, that can be perhaps taking out a loan from the bank. It can sometimes coincide with um, tax matters as well, but it's where you're committed with Saturn, where you have a lot of responsibility. So some of you might be paying off a mortgage, some of you might be paying off debt and taking it really very seriously while Saturn is transiting that sign for you. But also with the North Node there, this is a direction where maybe you're finally paying off your mortgage, or you're finally getting control of your finances, or you're finding that you are growing your finances by connecting with another person, maybe by getting married, maybe by getting a mortgage, etc. Those type of things can come up with the North Node going through the 8th. Now, when Saturn goes through the 9th house for you, Leo, you may find yourself a little bit less inclined to travel as much as you would have been when the North Node was going through Aries over the last year and a half. So with Saturn going through Aries, you might find that you have responsibilities that means you can't travel as much. On the contrary, for some of you, you may actually have to commit to traveling quite a bit if it's to do with your job or career. But for a lot of you, travel aside, this may be a time where, with Saturn going through the 9th, you're getting very serious about your studies. Some Leo risings could be going back to school, some could be starting school. You could be getting a degree, a master's. You could be studying for something that's going to require a lot of dedication and commitment. And this could be a formal qualification, or this could be studying something that you just simply want to advance in for your own sake. But it does feel like a lot of you could be getting a significant certification or degree over the next few years. Now, Saturn is only in Aries briefly this year, so you're getting more of a taster, but this can still kickstart a process of learning, or perhaps re-investigating or rethinking your belief system. Sometimes Saturn going through the 9th can feel a little bit like a period of testing when it comes to your beliefs. So you could have your faith challenged. You could be testing your own beliefs of the world, changing your view of the world. And you may actually become at times, which is interesting because this is very contradictory to the Saturnian energy, but Neptune is entering your 9th house from the 30th of March to the 22nd of October. And aside from those dates, in 2025, Neptune will still be in Pisces. So Neptune enters Aries briefly as well. This can be a time where you feel more compassionate and you feel more intuitive and a bit more empathic when it comes to topics of spirituality or religion or your beliefs. So some of you may actually, Leo, go more toward a traditional or conventional religious belief or set of belief systems. It doesn't have to be that case, but it can be. I do think with Neptune being in here as well, you will feel very compassionate for people as well who are maybe suffering overseas, or you may travel to help somebody in a charitable form. You may go on some sort of a mission to help others who are abroad from you with Neptune going through there. And it may also be that some of you are studying something like philosophy, religion, spirituality at university, for example. That could happen for some Leo risings who are studying this year. Now, the Venus retrograde period is going to go through Pisces and Aries. So again, we're looking at this 9th house, 8th house emphasis. Venus goes retrograde on the 2nd of March and will be in Aries retrograde until the 27th of March. This is where, Leo, you may be perhaps traveling somewhere you've been before, going back to somewhere. This can be a time when there are some challenging relationships when it comes to university, teachers, mentors, and you may be reflecting more generally on your beliefs at that time period. From the 27th to the 12th, we could have some friction or some issues in your intimate relationships, your closest relationships. And there can also be mix-ups when it comes to joint financial arrangements. This might be a time when money is actually paid back to you though. So you may receive money that is owed to you, like a tax rebate, or this may be a time when you realize that you owe some money that you didn't, know that you did. Can also be a time with Venus retrograde in the 8th where your close relationships, your intimate partnerships have some friction, perhaps to do with financial arrangements. Venus retrograde can bring a bit of friction to relationships. So you may be noticing it when it comes to your intimate relationships, Leo. Now, there's a total lunar eclipse in your 8th house on the 7th of September. This is going to be ruled by Jupiter in Cancer, and it's also co-ruled by Neptune in Aries at this particular point. Now, this lunar eclipse happening in your 8th house, it can be a time when you pay off debt, you pay off a mortgage. It can be a time when you're granted a mortgage or you take out a loan. Or it can be that there's a change in your intimate relationships. Maybe some of you get married, maybe some of you move in together, buy a home, for example. It can just simply be, for a lot of you as well, psychological work that you're doing. So you could be working through some past baggage, you could be working through some inherited issues, ancestral karma, that type of thing, maybe things that are going through your bloodline as a pattern of behavior, possibly in intimate relationships. Not to get too much into the psychological perspective of things, but with the North Node going through the 8th house, you may find yourself more interested in psychology or seeing someone who has qualifications in psychology, a therapist or something of that nature. But this total lunar eclipse, it can absolutely bring about those things because ruled by Jupiter in the 12th house, you're more focused on your subconscious. You have an awareness that there's something going on beneath you that you want to work through. The 12th house and the 8th house, when activated, are both quite psychological. So it's usually where you're working through something in order to heal. Neptune being in the 9th house means that this could be perhaps buying a property over abroad, or having to change the taxes you pay because you've moved abroad, or something of that nature as well for some Leos. Now, the South Node is going to be going through Virgo, and this means the South Node is going through your 2nd house. And we also have a partial solar eclipse and a total lunar eclipse in your 2nd house this year. The total lunar eclipse is happening on the 14th of March, is coinciding during the Venus retrograde. So you may find yourself reflecting more generally, Leo, on your financial habits and maybe wanting to let some stuff go. A way of making money may change, a particular salary may change. You may find that there are payments that need to be made, or you may find that, say for example, some of you are going on leave or you're leaving a job. There's something that changes your finances around this time where you may let go of a particular way of making money. This can also be a time when you let go of a particular way of making or spending money, and your financial habits can change because you're reflecting on them. And we do have a partial solar eclipse there on the 21st of September as well, Leo, which may be a new beginning in making money. This might be a time where you're going to start something new that is possibly, as this is ruled by Mercury in Libra, that is possibly to do with communication, or you may have news around this time that you are going to be receiving a new way of making money. This, for some of you, could be podcasting, writing, blogging, social media, that type of thing. But it can also be that you're making a payment for a car, with Mercury being in the 3rd house around this time, or your car payments are changing in some way, shape, or form. Now, I was mentioning there before Jupiter being in Cancer, that happens from the 10th of June. And for you, Leo, this is behind the scenes because it's going into your 12th house. Now, that might not sound so obvious in its blessings. Jupiter tends to bring blessings where Jupiter goes. But Jupiter going through the 12th house is where you have a lot more, you feel good about being alone. And that doesn't mean you have to be single. It doesn't mean that you have to be isolated, but you enjoy your own company more. You enjoy your downtime. Some of you may be finding with Jupiter going through the 12th that you enjoy learning something when you're by yourself, being at home to study something that you're really passionate about. You might find that you really enjoy taking it easy. You enjoy not being a social. You're maybe finding a lot of benefit from the healing that you're doing, or something that you're working on or growing behind the scenes, Leo. This can be quite a behind the scenes chapter for you. But at the same time, Jupiter's going through your 11th house until the 10th of June, which is more social. So the first half of the year is markedly more social and outgoing for you. But in the second half of the year, Leo, you may want to play it a little closer to home, and you may be a little bit more of a home bird, and focusing on your rest, your renewal, your own privacy, and just healing in general. You can also have some very positive spiritual experiences with Jupiter going through the 12th house. I will say, for a lot of you Leo risings, it looks like a very healing year. So it looks like a lot of you are working on yourself behind the scenes. You're working through some old issues. You're letting go of what you no longer need. You're cleaning house to make way for new beginnings. I'm also noticing for you, Leo, that you may find that there are some disruptions or changes when it comes to your friends, and you may also change your vision of the future. And that's because between the 7th of July and the 8th of November, Uranus is going to go through Gemini. So Uranus has been in your 10th house officially since 2019, but did briefly enter there in 18. And this has brought a lot of independence to your career. So you may have gone self-employed, you may have wanted more freedom when it comes to your work. There could have been unexpected shifts and changes when it comes to your career. But Uranus going through the 11th house may bring some changes when it comes to your friendships. They may be the people who surprise you. You may also focus on setting your future up for more independence. And you could be making future plans with a partner for some of you with Uranus as the modern ruler of your 7th house. You could be changing your vision of the future together or focusing more on future plans. But it is also possible under this time that your friendships or the groups that you're a part of change and shift maybe rather unexpectedly, Leo. And if you do make friends during this period, they're more likely to be quite odd or unusual in some way, shape, or fashion. They don't follow the norm or the mainstream, so to speak. Pluto is going through your 7th house of relationships all year, which means that your relationships can go through intense changes. This can be a good thing though, so don't worry too much about that. If you're looking for a new relationship, the new moon on the 29th of January may bring about a new partnership for Leos who are unattached. But with Pluto going through your 7th house, you may want relationships with more emotional depth and intimacy, because Pluto is a very intense and authentic planet, and you may want people that you connect with on an authentic level that feels like a very deep connection, and you're more likely to attract people that are seeking those types of things. But be careful, Leo, of getting involved with people who are controlling or manipulative. That can sometimes be the lower vibration of Pluto. But we all have, choices. Just pay attention to any red flags if they do come up in prospective partners. This can also bring changes to your relationships, especially if your descendant, Leo, is between 1 to 4 degrees of Aquarius. You may find that your partnerships or relationships are undergoing some significant change this year. But that is what I have for you, Leo. I hope you have a wonderful year, and I will talk to you soon. Hi Virgo, and happy new year to you. Welcome to 2025. So Virgo, as far as years go, this is putting a lot of focus onto your relationships. And that's because in January, the North Node is going to enter your opposite sign, Pisces. Now, with the North Node going through the 7th house, the area of life that is growing for you is your relationship sector and your relationships with other people. Now, this can bring about new relationships in your life, particularly if you're single. You could meet someone or get into a relationship with someone that is quite destined on your path, and you may grow a lot through this relationship. And by contrast, with the South Node going through your 1st house, your sign, you may have to let some things go personally in order to accommodate growth in a relationship. And this is not about changing who you are as a person for somebody else. It's about letting go of old ways of doing things or relating, or just lifestyle changes that naturally occur when you get into a relationship with somebody. So with the North Node going through your opposite sign, you may find that other people have a lot to teach you, and you learn a lot through your relationships with others. Now, Saturn is there until the 25th of May. Saturn enters Aries on the 25th of May, but returns to Pisces on the 1st of September. So you may find that while Saturn is going through your 7th house of relationships, that you are formalizing or committing to important relationships in your life. This can look like getting a house together. This can look like getting married, getting engaged, going official with somebody. It can also mean none of those things. It can be that you get into a long-term relationship that you learn a lot about each other and you learn a lot about yourself through these relationships. You don't necessarily have to do any of those milestones, but it is more likely with the North Node and Saturn there that you would. So if you are single, this is very likely a year that you could meet somebody. And pay attention to September as a time that could bring a significant change in your relationship status. We have a total lunar eclipse there, and it's ruled by Jupiter in Cancer. And for you, Virgo, this is to do with your future. So you may find that there's a significant change or shift in a relationship around this time, or your relationship status changes in a way that seems to develop your future. It seems to grow and expand your vision of the future or what the future looks like. So that may be to accommodate somebody else, or that may be that you and a partner are making future plans or something of that nature, Virgo. Now, all that being said, Saturn and the North Node going through the 7th house can also be that if you're in a relationship that has reached its time, it can no longer grow. This can also be a time where your lessons come through leaving it, through ending it, because Saturn has a testing energy. So it will test what is working, it will test the foundations. And if a relationship is not built to last or meant to grow beyond a certain point, it may end. And that lunar eclipse may also be a time that ends it so that you can have a more expansive or open view of the future. It can open you up to other things. There is a Venus retrograde period which is happening in the spring. It starts on the 2nd of March in the sign of Aries, where it's retrograding until the 27th of March in Aries, but on the 27th it retrogrades back into Pisces and will be retrograde in Pisces until the 12th of April. This is really going to test your relationship. So if there is a relationship that is no longer working or growing, this may be a time period that it ends, particularly because this Venus retrograde is connected to Saturn. And this can also be for some people that if you reconnect with someone from the past, which can happen with Venus retrograde, it may be that this is a relationship that can grow in the future from reconnecting to this person. So that can be an ex, yes, but it can also just be a close relationship from the past or someone that you saw relationship potential with. It doesn't necessarily have to be an ex. But because of the North Node with this Venus retrograde, you can reconnect with people from the past that help you grow in the future. So people maybe that, you didn't see that way then, but it develops into something now. It can be something of that nature. But for most, it is simply a period of reflection in terms of your relationship. So, how you connect with another person, how you connect in your relationships. There can be some friction. And this can also be true, Virgo, from a business perspective, especially if you're connected to someone financially. This can be a time that maybe there are more arguments with a business partner, or more arguments with a spouse, or more arguments with someone that you're in a close financial or intimate relationship with, because Venus retrograde can bring a bit of trouble to relationships based on the retrograde notion. So just pay attention to that time period. It could be quite a testing period for relationships. But this does look like a year that you're really growing through your connections to other people. Now, for you, Virgo, it looks like a lot of you are very committed this year to paying off debt or getting your finances in order, because Saturn is going through your 8th house from the 25th of May to the 1st of September. And this may be a time when you decide that you need to get very committed when it comes to your finances. So if you have debt, Saturn going through this sector can actually limit your debt because you're committed to paying it off. It can also be a time when you find yourself financially committed to something like a mortgage, a significant loan, something that is going to require a lot of dedication and commitment on your end, maybe to fulfill the financial obligations of a partnership or some sort of legality. So this may be a time when you're finding yourself a bit financially committed to something significant. Oftentimes, Saturn going through the 8th house coincides with having a mortgage you have to pay off, or having payments you need to make, or being financially committed to someone else as well. It's not just you that's involved in this. Neptune going through your 8th house from the 30th to the 22nd. 30th of March to the 22nd of October. It's quite a wide period. Neptune going through this sector can be a time where you are, from a spiritual sense, because the 8th house is quite occult based. I think for a lot of you, you might actually develop an interest in the occult in this time period if you don't have it already. And if you don't have it already, I'm not quite sure why you're here, but either way, glad to have you. But Neptune going through the 8th house can be a time when you really develop your psychic skills and you actually develop your ability to read tarot, read astrology. That type of thing can come up. It can also be a time when you're working with a healer who's maybe a shaman or maybe someone who works in the occult field in some way. You may be more interested in psychics more generally in that time period, Virgo. Uranus is going to enter your 10th house this year. Now, it's a brief period. It's from the 7th of July to the 8th of November, but this is quite significant. Your 10th house is active this year, Virgo. Jupiter is going to be there until the 10th of June, which is bringing you potential to expand your career. You could find fame, you could find notoriety, you could get recognition in your career, you could have a lot of opportunities in your career. You could travel with your career. You may find that your career expands in a way that it feels exciting for the most part. But of course, if there's issues in your job or career, Jupiter sometimes expands that too, so that you get the knowledge and the wisdom that comes from that experience, so that you can grow your own vision of your career if it has been somewhat limited before. Now, Uranus going through that sector from the 7th of July to the 8th of November is going to arouse a feeling in you, Virgo, where you want a little bit more independence and freedom from your job. So, whatever you do for work, whether you're employed, self employed, uh, it feels as though you may want to embrace more independence, more personal autonomy. You may find yourself being a bit more rebellious at work. You may find yourself testing your limits, and you may also find yourself going off onto a very unusual career trajectory that other people didn't see coming. Similarly, if you have a boss or someone in a position of authority, Virgo, this could be an unreliable or shaky character at this time, or someone who just surprises you at this time period as well. Most people I find when they have a Uranus going through the 10th house transit, they tend to want to be self-employed or do something that is a little bit unusual. If you think to Leo risings in your life over the last few years, many of them will probably and likely have become self-employed and probably went into an unusual industry. Not all, but many, I've noticed. So you may find that you need a little bit more independence during that time period. Your 11th house this year gets lit up with Jupiter. Virgo. So Jupiter entering your 11th house on the 10th of June. Jupiter meets Venus in August as well. So that's a really positive month for you when it comes to social connections, friendships, mingling, networking. This will become a more social year for you. And you can also find that a lot of the things that you've always wanted occur, manifestations. You feel lucky, you feel blessed with Jupiter transiting the 11th house, and it will call you to be more social, more active in your communities, more networking, and your vision of the future may seem quite exciting at this time. Maybe there's something that's manifesting for you that makes you excited about the future, you feel hopeful about the future, and you can absolutely grow your network to meet and accommodate a lot of people. Now, I want to talk about the South Node though, Virgo. There's a few things that are very important here because we are going to have eclipses in your sign this year. And this is arguably the most important part that I probably should have begun with, but here we are. So for you, Virgo, the South Node going through your sign, this is a time of healing for you on a personal level. When the South Node goes through your sign, you often find that you are healing things within you that you maybe didn't realize that needed healed, possibly because you were working so much, possibly because you were focused on your tasks, your roles, your services, your job. You may have some stuff within you that you need to process and let go of certain ways of being. And for a lot of you, I'm going to tell you now, this is to do with perfectionism and needing to be perfect, something that is unattainable, but needing to be seen to be correct, to be perfect, feeling like you're not allowed to make a mistake, you're not allowed to slip up, you're not allowed to take a day off, you're not allowed to take a sick day, whatever the case may be, Virgo, you're going to have to let go of these notions of yourself or these approaches with the South Node going through your sign. Particularly look to March. There's a total lunar eclipse in your sign, and Venus is retrograde at this time period in your 8th house. You may be having some sort of epiphany or awareness of yourself and realizing a pattern, realizing an approach that is just not working for you anymore and you want to let it go. I will also say, Virgo, be very mindful of your health this year. Make it a priority. If you feel unwell, it is okay to rest. And that eclipse will show you that if you don't pay attention to the warning signs. Listen to your body this year and give it the respect it deserves. If it is telling you something is off, listen to it. Get that checked, get that reviewed. I'm not saying that to scare you, by the way. I'm just saying that in the sense that you're really going to need to get in touch and in tune with your body this year, because there are some things that you will need to change. The partial solar eclipse in your sign in September brings about a new life for you. You're going to approach the world differently. You're going to want to show up differently. Because it's ruled by Mercury in Libra at that time, you may want to show up with more confidence. You may want to make more money as well. You may want to show up as someone who has strong self-esteem, someone who really cares about their own personal needs, wants, and desires, and someone who knows their value. That's something that you're also connecting with this year, Virgo. But this can also just bring a change of status for you more generally. You could be going from single to married. You could be going from married to divorced. You could be going from uh employee to CEO, whatever the case may be. It just feels like there's a change in your identity this year, Virgo. You may show up to the world quite differently than you did before. And I will say as well, mark the 23rd of July when the Mars, the South Node conjunct Mars in your sign occurs, because this is a time where if you push yourself too hard, you may see that you need to change how hard you're pushing. Mars, for you, Virgo, connecting to the South Node, you may notice that if you push too hard, you may injure yourself and you may set yourself back that little bit more. That's a time to take it easy and rest, and maybe to let go of some negative beliefs surrounding productivity as well for you, Virgo. But that is what I have for you this year. I hope you have a wonderful year, and I will talk to you soon. Hi Libra, Happy New Year. Welcome to your 2025 horoscope. So, Libra, I want to begin with the fact that your ruling planet Venus does have a retrograde cycle this year, and it's going to be from the 2nd of March to the 12th of April. Venus is going to go retrograde in your sector of relationships from the 2nd of March to the 27th of March, retrograding back into your 6th house of health and well-being from the 27th of March to the 12th of April. This is a particularly important one for you, Libra, because it is putting the focus onto your relationships. And I will say there's a bit of a testing energy this year when it comes to your unions. So your partnerships, that can be your marriage, it can be your significant other, it can be a business partnership, it can also be client relationships. But I think for a lot of you, with the Venus retrograde period from the 2nd of March to the 27th of March happening in Aries, a lot of you in relationships could experience a bit of a tricky time around that point. Venus retrograde can be notoriously difficult for relationships in that it can bring up issues. It tends to put a spotlight on what isn't working in the union, so that either you can make changes or you can go your separate ways if it isn't workable. Venus retrograde cycles do tend to occur with breakups. However, this doesn't mean that your relationship is destined to fail. It just can be a reflection period where you're thinking of what is working, what isn't working. And I think you're really the one doing the reflecting, Libra, because it's your ruling planet and you're reflecting on your own needs, wants, and desires within a relationship. And as a matter of fact, Saturn enters your relationship sector this year for a short time from the 25th of May until the 1st of September. This is also a testing energy for your relationships. But for some of you, that may be that the conclusions you reach in the Venus retrograde are that you actually want to commit deeper to your relationship, or you want to work on your marriage, or you want to repair your relationship. And for some of you, of course, it can be that you don't see this going any further. For others of you, it can be that the reflection that you do, particularly if you're single, could bring you back to someone from the past. You might reconnect with an old partner, or you may reconnect with someone from the past that was not a partner but becomes a partnership this time around. And it can be with Saturn going into Aries this year that some of you do meet long-term partnerships. You do enter long-term relationships, and relationships that are built on quite a steady, solid foundation, with Saturn being there. So for a lot of you, it's going to be different, Libra, but I think for the majority of you, the reflection that you do in the spring can lead to greater commitments in the summer, or reverse that if you're in the southern hemisphere in the autumn to the winter. But for a lot of you as well, with Neptune entering your 7th house from the 30th of March to the 22nd of October, you may have a more dreamy and compassionate nature when it comes to partnerships. So this can be quite healing. Obviously, with this being in a partnership house for you and it's Neptune, be careful of projecting a fantasy onto someone else or looking at someone through rose-tinted glasses. Sometimes Neptune can bring poor decision making when it comes to looking at things through a rose-tinted fantastical point of view. But with Saturn there, I think for a lot of you, it's more grounded in reality than it ordinarily would be. So there is quite a focus on your relationships this year, Libra. And I do think for a lot of you, it could be a testing period where maybe for some, it's a bit of a split or commit energy. And for others who are wanting a relationship, the reflection that you do may lead you to pick someone a bit more serious for your long-term relationships. We do have quite a focus this year, Libra, though, on your health. So the North Node enters Pisces in January, which is your 6th house. And when the North Node goes through your 6th house, it really brings your focus to your health and your well-being. A lot of people try new ways of eating, new ways of exercising. They can get into a new fitness regimen. They can pick up a new sport or a new activity for their health. They can experiment with different types of diets. For some people, when the North Node goes through their 6th house, for example, they may try veganism. For you, with it being Pisces, you may try to be pescatarian. For others of you, it may be that you're taking up swimming or cold water swimming or something to do with the water when it comes to your health or when it comes to looking after your health or well-being. You may also be more focused on staying hydrated, and you may also be seeking out spiritual health alternatives under this particular transit. That's not me giving you medical advice whatsoever. It's just that with Pisces energy, sometimes people find themselves looking in the more holistic route. At the same time, this means the South Node is going through your 12th house, and the South Node brings a healing energy. And obviously we have eclipses there. So at the same time, you're doing some significant mental health healing. You may be looking into the past. You may be working with your subconscious mind. You might be working on releasing limiting beliefs or self-sabotaging behaviors. Some of you may also be releasing an addiction if you've been experiencing addiction issues, particularly with Neptune going through your 6th house, Libra. Neptune, as I mentioned, will be in your 6th house outside of the Neptune and Aries window. Saturn will also be in your 6th house until the 25th of May. And then it will return on the 1st of September. Just to give complete clarity there, Neptune's in your 6th house until the 30th of March and returns on the 22nd of October. Saturn being in your 6th house means you have to get very serious about your health. You may have to work on taking care of your bones, taking care of your joints. Saturn is to do with the bones. It can also be looking after your body. Regardless of what age you are, you may notice signs of aging in your body that you have to take care of. But the 6th house isn't just about health, Libra, it's also about your work and your services. The North Node going through this sector can bring a new job, particularly with the eclipses. And for some of you with Saturn going through the 6th, you may have been out of work. You may have been taking extended leave. You may have been taking time off for your health. For some of you, you could also be finding that if you've been working very hard at your job, you're getting a new role, you're getting a new job, maybe for a lot of you. With the North Node going through the 6th, that oftentimes does bring about job changes. So looking for a new job, taking a new job that is going to lead you on your path. It's the North Node is a very fated point, so is the South Node, but they tend to lead us to where we need to go, even if it doesn't make sense at the time. So for a lot of you, there could be a new job this year, particularly around the time of the lunar eclipse, which is happening on the 7th of September. This might be a time when your health comes into focus, Libra. This might be a time when you're really focusing on your work. And one of the really positive things that's happening for you, Libra, is that Jupiter is actually entering your 10th house this year. Jupiter entering your 10th house is happening on the 10th of June and will be there for the rest of the year. Jupiter going through Cancer, particularly with this lunar eclipse happening in September, you may find that you get a promotion. You may find that you get a better job. You may find that you're falling in line with the right people, the right connections. You're in a position of power and authority. For a lot of you, Jupiter going through the 10th tends to bring you into favor of those who have authority over you, high positions of power. It can bring you your own promotions. It can bring you, new jobs that are more positive for you, that bring you a lot of benefits, essentially, with Jupiter going through the 10th house. Until the 10th of June, Jupiter is going to be in your 9th house, which makes the first half of the year a beautiful time, the first half of the year, a beautiful time to travel and to explore. If you're in higher education, this is a very positive time for your higher education. You can find better mentors, better teachers, you can enjoy what you're studying, you can do better than you thought in your exams when Jupiter goes through the 9th house. Obviously, that's putting in the work at the same time, but it can just tend to bring you more benefits. Where Jupiter goes, it expands. So you do make the most of that yourself, but Jupiter does tend to amplify the positive energy that you feel in that sector. So the more positive that you feel about it, the better it goes with Jupiter ordinarily. Other things that are happening for you, Libra, will be that with the Venus retrograde, when it goes through your 6th house, or just jumping back every so often, ever so slightly, but I don't want to miss this, from the 27th of March to the 12th of April, In Pisces, when it comes to your physical health and well-being, I think you're really reflecting on your own habits and what are or are not working for you under that time period. It seems like with Venus ruling your first house of the physical body, going through the sixth house of your health, you're rethinking what you're doing for yourself in that time period. And I think with the eclipses in the North Node, a lot of you are going to really improve or move in new directions when it comes to your health and your well-being. One other thing that I want to mention is that Uranus is, of course, moving into Gemini this year, which is your ninth house. So you have Jupiter in the ninth house until June. As I said before, really positive for taking trips, travel, learning, expanding the mind, broadening your horizons, tends to bring really positive events when it comes to trips. But whenever Uranus enters this sector for you from the 7th of July to the 8th of November, this can bring unexpected opportunities to travel. This can also bring unexpected opportunities to study, or it can be, sudden changes that you're making when it comes to your education, Libra. Another thing to note is that the solar eclipse in Aries is wrapping up the eclipses in your sign and your opposite sign. It's happening on the 29th of March. This is happening in your partnership sector, so this seems to be, for a lot of you, be bringing a new relationship into your life or a new beginning in a current relationship. It's ruled by Mars in Cancer. So Mars in Cancer, Mars being in your 10th house at that point, it may bring a new business relationship or it may bring a new significant relationship through your work or your career, Libra. But that is what I have for you. I hope you have a wonderful year and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Scorpio, welcome to your 2025 horoscope. So Scorpio, we're going to start with Mars retrograde for you because Mars is your traditional ruling planet. So the year does get off to a little bit of a slow start for a lot of Scorpios. Mars retrograde in your career sector until the 6th of January. You may be reflecting on what is and is not working for you when it comes to your career, when it comes to your professional life or your public reputation. This is a prime time to play it cool, to not lose your rag with someone at work, with a client, with a boss, because it can really damage your reputation at that time. So just take it easy, maybe take time off around that period. Mars retrogrades back into your ninth house and will be there will be retrograde there from the 6th of January to the 24th of February. And this is the time when you might want to reflect on your beliefs, how they're working for you, how they're not working for you, and in the sign of Cancer, how they're detrimental to your own well-being, how they're affecting you, what your beliefs are telling you to do or not do, and where some of this is not working for you or it's not conducive to your well-being. So you may notice at this point that you're letting go of some beliefs that are actually hurting you or preventing you from moving forward, that are preventing you from taking action on what it is that you want and what it is that you need. This may be where you're sidestepping something because of a belief. And when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So there's a big focus this year for you, Scorpio, on your 5th house. And the 5th house is to do with love, it's to do with romance, it's dating, it's also procreation, it's birth, it's children, it's also your creativity and what you do for fun. So the North Node enters that sector in January. A big focus for you in 2025, Scorpio, is actually going to be having fun, enjoying yourself, being in touch with your creativity, getting into a more creative space. Now, I know we have Saturn there, so sometimes Saturn can add a bit of a dampening effect, but it can also improve our commitment to what it is that we're working on creatively. So I know a lot of you that watch these are very creative and work in creative professions, and Saturn there can really test your commitment to your job if you're in a creative position, but it can also be a time when you really dedicate yourself to one creative project in particular. And with the North Node going there, you may find that there are destined creative projects for you to work on, or you discover a new talent. Even if you don't view yourself as creative, you may discover a new talent this year. For a lot of you, it can also be with Saturn being there, with the North Node being there, some of you can become parents for the first time in 2025. Some of you could have more children in 2025. Some of you could find that your children's lives, if you have them, regardless of what age they are very active this year. There's a lot going on for your kids. There's a lot developing in their lives. And it can also be for those of you that are single that destined love affairs come into your life. You could find yourself falling in love. You could find yourself meeting someone unexpectedly with the North Node going through the 5th house. And you can also have a lot of destined opportunities to have a good time, to have fun. You go to a party and you remember it for the rest of your life with North Node going through the fifth house, Scorpio. And the eclipse there in September, happening on the 7th of September at 15 degrees of Pisces. It's a total lunar eclipse. It's ruled by Jupiter in Cancer and Neptune in Aries. That eclipse could bring you a really fun event, party, creative opportunity in a foreign country, traveling. You could go to maybe you're going to a full moon party or something like that if you're traveling around that time period. And the reason I say that is because Jupiter going through Cancer for you, Scorpio, is really about traveling. It's about expanding your mind, going on trips. Jupiter enters your ninth house on the 10th of June. And under this cycle for the rest of the year, you may find that you have more opportunities to travel, to go places you've always wanted to go. You have more positive experiences when you travel. You may find that you just have the type of trips when Jupiter goes through the ninth house that you remember for the rest of your life. Sometimes you run into people that change the way you look at the world. You go to different cultures that change the way you look at the world, or you just have a really good time and make amazing memories. Until Jupiter enters your ninth house, Jupiter's going through your eighth house, which is where you can benefit financially from other people. So that can be getting a loan, a mortgage, an inheritance. It can be that your partner's finances increase as well. It can also be just a warning. You can really rank up some serious debt here if you're not careful. So just be mindful of that too, Scorpio. There's always good and bad to these configurations. But I do feel for a lot of you in the second half of the year, there's a lot of opportunity to travel, to take vacations, to have fun, to enjoy yourself, to expand your view of the world, Scorpio. It is a year to have fun for you, I think. But for some of you with the Venus retrograde period, Venus ruling your sector of relationships, it's going to go retrograde in your 6th house from the 2nd of March to the 27th before re-entering via retrograde your 5th house. So we're looking at the 6th house and the 5th house a lot this year for you, and I'll get to the 6th in a second. From the 27th of March to the 12th of April, Venus is retrograde in your 5th house. For some of you, part of your destined love affairs this year may be about reconnecting with someone from your past, thanks to the Venus retrograde. This Venus retrograde connects with the North Node and Saturn, so if there's unfinished business or unfinished karma with someone from their past, you may reconnect this year. It may also be for some of you that you're reflecting on your love life, and this is helping you make different decisions going forward. It doesn't have to be that you reconnect with an ex. But when Venus is retrograde, it can often be a time where we look backwards in order to move forwards. And with the North Node connecting to this Venus retrograde, it feels for a lot of people that looking back will actually help them move forward in very significant new directions. So if you do reconnect with someone from the past romantically at this time, it can be for the best with the North Node. It can be for your growth, or it can be that you learn an important lesson that you didn't get the first time around. For others of you, this can be that there's some tricky events happening with your children. Maybe there's some, relationship issues with them at this point. But again, it can be to develop and grow your connection to them going forward with the North Node. This Venus retrograde period, the connection to the North Node and Saturn, makes it particularly karmic. So there's some very important lessons coming up for you in 2025, Scorpio, when it comes to your love life, when it comes to your children, when it comes to your creative outlets as well. I want to talk about the 6th house too. Venus does begin the retrograde period in the 6th house from the 2nd of March to the 27th of March. And we have Saturn and Neptune entering your 6th house in the summer, if you're in the northern hemisphere, and in the winter, if you are in the southern. But essentially, this is bringing a lot of focus to your health and your well-being. So with Saturn entering your 6th house from the 25th of May to the 1st of September, during this time period, you may notice where there are some restrictions or some challenges when it comes to your health and your well-being. Sometimes with Saturn going through the 6th house, we can remember that we are human and we can have some repercussions of aging, or we can be maybe working ourselves too hard and we realize we need to take a break. Sometimes with Saturn going through the 6th house, it can bring a bit of testing when it comes to our health and our well-being, so that you commit more to your body, your routines, your diet, your exercise, and things like that as well. Neptune is also going to be going into your 6th house from the 30th of March to the 22nd of October. And During this period with Neptune being there, you may feel a little bit confused about what you're doing work-wise. You may be feeling a little bit confused about your role. You might feel a little bit confused about the direction that you're going in, health or work-wise. I think a lot of you could find yourself bringing a more spiritual energy to not only your work, but to your health. So maybe incorporating meditation, maybe incorporating breath work, maybe incorporating more of a spiritual routine into your health and your well-being, Scorpio. The Venus retrograde in Aries, it's where you're reflecting on what it is that you're doing health-wise or work-wise, but it can be a bit challenging to your work relationships, and it can be a bit challenging to your relationship to your job and your services, where you may have to reflect on what is and isn't working for you. I do feel for you it could be challenges with co-workers, it could be challenges with employees during that particular retrograde cycle. There's also fated changes this year, Scorpio, coming to your friendships. The South Node going through your sector of friendships means that you may actually find yourself reconnecting with old friends. I remember when the South Node went through my 11th house, I started a job and there were a lot of people that I was friendly with at uni that I hadn't seen in a long time, and we reconnected under the South Node going through the 11th house. I also made some of my best friends whilst the South Node was going through my 11th house as well. Really fated relationships that felt like soul family. So just bear in mind, you might make some very exciting fated friendships this year. Some of you may also decide to let go of friendships or groups if they're no longer working for you. You might find yourself stepping away from a team. You can also find yourself having some karmic lessons when it comes to teams and groups. If you have any unresolved issues there, they can come up within a group or a team. It can also be that for some of you, as I said, you're letting go of friendships, groups, or teams that no longer align with your vision for the future, Scorpio. But it can equally be a time when you reconnect with old friends or you meet friends that feel like soul family. And just a note point, you find that when you connect with people during a South Node transit, you often have South Node or North Node synastry. So if you're into synastry, be mindful to check that out, as it can show a past life tie and where you're growing together in this lifetime as well. Other things coming up for you, Scorpio, watch in March for your health and your well-being. We have a partial solar eclipse in Aries happening on the 29th of March, which is actually wrapping up the series of Libra and Aries eclipses over the last couple of years. This one is going to put your focus on your health and your well-being, yes, but some of you might start a new job, and if you do, it could be abroad or it could be a global company. For others of you, you might find that you are changing your routine in a way that aligns more with your beliefs and the reflection that you've been having about your beliefs and your inner philosophies, Scorpio. So you want to align your work with meaning this year. That's one thing that's coming up for you. You want to have more of a spiritual meaning behind the work that you're doing. You don't just want to click in and click out, or log in and log out, or clock in and clock out is what I meant to say, Scorpio. But that is what I have for you. I hope you have a wonderful year, and I will talk to you soon. Bye. Hi Sagittarius, Happy New Year. Welcome to 2025. So Sagittarius, there's a lot of focus this year on your home, your living situation, and your family. So we can have a lot of growth and development this year for you, Sagittarius, when it comes to where you're living, your family situation, and there can be some fated events happening there too. The North Node enters Pisces in January, and the North Node and the South Node, which is entering Virgo, bring a sense of growth and development, and often coincide with quite fated events. So events that you remember, that teach you something that you learn from, or that change the course of your destiny in some way, whether that be big or small. For a lot of you, it feels as though you may be going in a new direction when it comes to where you live. And this really ties in with the fact that Saturn has been going through your fourth house since early 2023. Some of you may have moved into your forever home. You may have laid foundations, built a home, bought a home. Saturn tends to bring a lot of responsibility and commitment. You may have become a parent. You may have grown your family. Some of you may have taken on caring responsibilities or had more commitments to your family, maybe your parents or maybe your children. But with the North Node going through the sector for you, Sagittarius, and Saturn and Neptune there for quite a big portion of the year, as well as the Venus retrograde, we do have a lot of focus on that sector for you. For some of you, you may change your living situation, particularly with the September lunar eclipse, as it's a total lunar eclipse. You may move. That one for you, Sagittarius, will be ruled by Jupiter in Cancer. So this may be that you're getting a mortgage, or you're maybe making more money through your partner, and this is leading to a home situation, or something's changing with your marriage or your spouse, and this is leading to a move. It can also be that you're moving for the sake of your children, as Neptune at that point will be in your fifth house. But it doesn't have to be a move. It can be that some of you, as I say, are becoming parents. It can be that there's significant changes happening within your home and family, and you're noticing that things are moving in new directions around that time period for you, Sagittarius. But it is putting a lot of focus on your home and your family, and that's where you're going to grow, that's where you're going to develop. Um, Saturn and Neptune being there this year as well, Saturn is bringing those commitments. Neptune can bring compassion, and it can also bring unconditional love, possibly which comes with being a parent, or it can just be healing your family relationships. But for a lot of you as well, there's some focus this year on the fifth house. And the Venus retrograde period is bringing reflection to both these houses for you, Sagittarius. Venus is retrograde in Aries and Pisces from the 2nd of March to the 12th of April, in Aries from the 2nd of March to the 27th, in Pisces from the 27th of March to the 12th of April. With this Venus retrograde period, you're reflecting on your home and living situation and figuring out what is and isn't working. This can be a bit testing for family relationships at this time period, but it is leading to growth with the North Node. And Venus being retrograde in your fifth house as well makes me think that perhaps for a lot of you, you're reflecting on your children. It can bring challenges with children. Your relationship with your children can be a bit tricky at this time period, but it can also bring a lot of growth and reflection. And that comes with relationships of all kinds. There can be testing periods, reconfiguring what it is that is working and what is not. Saturn is going to enter your fifth house from the 25th of May to the 1st of September. Neptune is going to be there from the 30th of March to the 22nd of October. Saturn going through the fifth house can be as I said before, a testing period when it comes to your children. There can be difficulties there, but it can also be that, your children are starting school, or they're making serious commitments in their life, or they're going through something and you're having to help them. Sometimes Saturn going through the fifth house can coincide when a child is experiencing melancholy or sadness about something in their life. It can also be a time when they're experiencing greater commitments in their life, or making solid commitments in their life, or your relationship to them is undergoing a testing period of some kind, Sagittarius. Neptune going through that sector, though, can be beautiful for feeling that compassion and that unconditional love when it comes to your children. Now, the fifth house isn't just about children, though. With the fifth house Saturn going through there, this can be where you commit to a creative project, one that you really love, one that could be a little bit spiritual in nature with Neptune, but it could also just be that it's something that you truly love to do. You could be committing more to your art. You could be learning more about your art, wanting to improve your art or your creativity, Sagittarius. It can also be that you're taking dating more seriously in your romantic life. You're taking it a little bit more seriously. And with Venus retrograde in March, you may find that you reconnect with an old love if you're single, or someone that you used to date. Or you may be figuring out how to bring the romance back into your relationship. Say, for example, you've been putting a lot of focus on the home and moving and family, and you've neglected the romantic side of your relationship. This might be a time to reconnect with your partner. One thing that is significant indeed for you, Sagittarius, this year is that Uranus is entering your partnership sector. Now, we have Jupiter in your partnership sector from, until the 10th of June. Uranus enters there on the 7th of July and will be there until the 8th of November. Jupiter going through your partnership sector in the first half of the year, great time to get into a new relationship, meet a significant other, commit more to your relationship, develop your partnership, grow your partnership, have a good time in your relationship. As I mentioned, if you're single, you may meet somebody in this time period. Uranus can be a bit more disruptive, so there can be significant changes happening up in your romantic relationships. It can be a case for you, Sagittarius, that there's sudden changes with your partnership. For some of you, those can be breakups, divorces, but they can more likely be changes happening in your partner's life that you didn't see coming. So maybe, they suddenly need to relocate you guys for work. Maybe they suddenly need to work more. Maybe they suddenly become CEO. It's a neutral impact. It can be good or bad depending on the circumstances, but it is simply that Uranus brings changes to your relationship sector. And sometimes it can be a bit unsettling, but sometimes it can also be that you need more freedom in your relationship. So sometimes that can be entering a long distance relationship if you're single. Sometimes it can be that your partner has to travel more for work if you're coupled. It can simply bring changes and a little bit of instability at times, but it doesn't always mean an ending. It can also be that if you're single, you suddenly fall in love with someone who's a little bit different than you would usually go for, Sagittarius, someone who's a bit different to you. Uranus going through the 7th house can be about seeking more freedom and independence in your relationship. So, attracting more independent partners or wanting to have the kind of relationship where you can go off on solo trips, for example. But as I said, that area of life for you is exceptionally blessed in the first half of the year in particular. And from the 10th of June onwards, if you are in a relationship, your partner's finances may increase with Jupiter going through your 8th house. You know, this can be a better time to get a loan, to get a mortgage. It can be a time when you rack up debt, so be careful of that. Jupiter tends to bring good feelings, and in the 8th house, it's about other people's money. And sometimes, you run out of spending other people's money. So you might find that you're really racking up debt if you have a credit card or something at that time period. So forewarned is forearmed. It can also be that you're really benefiting through the financial resources of a partnership in your life, Sagittarius. For some of you, there could be a pregnancy happening in March with the solar eclipse in Aries. It's happening in your 5th house, or it could be a sudden new romance that enters the scene. For a lot of you, it could be an intimate romance because Mars is in Cancer at that time. Mars is ruling that eclipse. Cancer is your 8th house. For others of you this year, there does seem to be some career changes as well. So the South Node is going through your 10th house. You may find that your career is something that you're perhaps looking to change in 2025. This can be that you're changing your jobs, particularly in September, as we do have a solar eclipse in your 10th house. It's going to be ruled by Mercury in Libra. So around that time, you may have a new goal in mind, a new dream in mind, and it may inspire you to change your job, or you may change job to work with a team. You know, if you work solo, you may be joining a team at work. But I think for a lot of you, it's about aligning your career with your long-term aspirations and goals, whatever they may be. They'll be different for all of you. Some of you may also experience job changes in March, as there's a total lunar eclipse in your 10th house. This one is going to be ruled by Mercury retrograde in Aries. Some of you might be wanting to leave your job to focus on your children. Some of you might be wanting a more creative job, or some of you may simply be, rethinking how happy you are in your job, or if your job makes you happy, Sagittarius, around March. March and September can absolutely bring job changes for you. The South Node tends to bring healing, so you may have experiences that help you heal your relationship to authority, to work, or to your career, and you realize what you need to let go of in order to grow at that time period. There's a lot of conversations about the South Node. People tend to think that it's what we're moving away from. And I know why they think that, because astrologers say it, but it's not really that. Eclipses tend to bring fated events in both the houses the North and the South Node occupy. So don't think that at this time period, if you leave a job, that you won't ever get another one. I see a lot of people enter new jobs that are more fruitful for them, believe it or not, when the South Node goes through the 10th house, but it can also coincide with periods out of work where you're maybe on maternity, or you're looking for a job that really works for you. It can be that maybe for a certain amount of time, being unemployed is where you're going to grow or develop, or you're wanting to take a sabbatical, or you're wanting to take some time away from your career. Those are all perfectly noble things to do, Sagittarius, if you're wanting to take a career break, if you're going on maternity, if you're wanting to go job searching, or if you just need a break. Sometimes the South Node can be showing us where we need to rest and recharge in order to align with something more connected to our soul, and perhaps helps us activate past life talents. With these eclipses, it can also be that if you're in a particular industry, you may also change that industry in 2025, Sagittarius. But that is what I have for you. I hope you have a wonderful year, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Capricorn, welcome to your 2025 horoscope and a very happy new year. So Capricorn, with you I want to start with Saturn, because Saturn is your ruling planet. And Saturn is going to be going through Pisces and Aries this year. So we have a bit of changeable activity when it comes to your ruling planet. And Saturn going through Pisces until the 25th of May and then returning on the 1st of September, where Saturn will stay in Pisces for the rest of the year. The Saturn and Pisces saga continues for you. It's been going on since March 2023. This can put dedication, commitment, and it can bring a testing period when it comes to the following people. So it can be neighbors, it can be siblings, extended family, your cousins, your aunts, your uncles. It can bring a testing energy to these relationships. It can bring significant commitment. So maybe you have to work more with a neighbor or a sibling, or it can also be that there's been some challenging lessons when it came to a sibling or maybe even a neighbor for some of you with Saturn going through that sector. But when Saturn goes into Aries on the 25th of May until the 1st of September, this is going to test your foundations when it comes to where you live and also your family. Now, I don't want you to be afraid of this. Saturn going through the fourth house tends to be a time that coincides with a move. It can often be a time where someone becomes a homeowner for the first time. So you can buy a property, you can buy a home, you can purchase more property, you can be building a home. You know, Saturn is about laying foundations. Maybe for some of you, you're building a home, buying a home, or you're committing more to your family for some reason. So that can be you have more responsibility because you become a parent. It can be you've more responsibility because you have a dog at home, or it can be that you're looking after an aging parent, or it can just be that you feel more dedicated and responsible for your home and your family and your living situation. So you're working very hard in that area. I have seen this with Sagittarius rising friends as Saturn goes through their fourth house, that a lot of them, did become homeowners or purchase property or commit more to their home and their family. So for you, you might find during that time period that your focus, as Saturn is your ruling planet, is very much on your home and your family. And you may be deciding that it's time to move, or it's time to commit a little bit further to your home and your family and your living situation for whatever reason, Capricorn. That certainly becomes your focus at that time period. But Neptune also enters your home and family sector from the 30th of March until the 22nd of October. Now, Neptune can bring an energy of unconditional love and compassion. Some of you might decide that it's time to forgive someone in your home or your family. It can also be a time when you're wanting to bring a bit more of a spiritual energy into your home. This could be that perhaps, you've crystals in the home, you're setting up a crystal grid, or you're looking into feng shui, or you're looking into the energy of a home with Neptune going through this sector. It can also be a time where you're more focused on making your home a safe haven, so to speak, for a lot of you Capricorn. And sometimes it can bring a bit of confusion as well, but Saturn being there and Saturn being your ruling planet is really very grounding. So if there is something happening within your home and your family, Capricorn, that may be when, particularly from late March, when we have a solar eclipse in your home and family sector. It's going to be ruled by Mars in your 7th house of relationships. So you might be finding around that time, Capricorn, that you are actually, maybe moving because of a partnership, because of a relationship, maybe a partnership change, a relationship change. Maybe you're moving in with a partner around this time. Maybe you're going into a property business partnership. That can also be something that's occurring in the spring. Obviously, it's spring if you're in the northern hemisphere, autumn if you're in the winter. But there could be a change in your living situation from March to October, essentially, for a lot of you Capricorns, or more of a focus on your home and your family for sure. Now, a lot of the focus this year is actually going on to your 3rd house activities. So that can be siblings, if you have any. It can also be neighbors, your local neighborhood, your local environment, your community. The North Node is going through the sector, so maybe you're getting more involved locally in perhaps the neighborhood watch or the PTA, or you're taking more short courses locally. If you have a local tech or something like that, maybe you're taking courses, maybe you're going back to school for something, Capricorn, maybe you're taking more workshops than usual. You've opportunities to go on more workshops than usual. For some of you with Pisces being there, they can be spiritual workshops, but it doesn't have to be. Some of you might be learning to swim, for example. With it being in Pisces, but it can also be that this is bringing fated events when it comes to your siblings, your cousins, your aunts, your uncles this year. They can be more of a focus. Their life could be affecting you. You could be working together on something, or you may notice there's more going on in their life and that is impacting you in some way. It can also put a lot of your focus, Capricorn, onto the online sphere. So if you're into blogging, podcasting, can also be that if you're into writing, that's a big focus for you this year as well. particularly with that total lunar eclipse in September, which, like the eclipse in March, is going to be ruled by a planet which is in your 7th house of relationships. And I want to talk about relationships, Capricorn. So Jupiter is going to enter your relationship sector from the 10th of June, but Mars is retrograde in your relationship sector from the 6th of January to the 24th of February. There could be some friction with your partnership or your relationship from January to February with Mars retrograde there. You might fight more with your partner or significant other or a significant relationship in your life, not necessarily romantic, but it can be very testing with your relationships. And it can bring a bit more hostility or frustration. Your partner might be annoying you or more prone to picking fights, or there can be more points of frustration in your partnership or your relationship. However, in the second half of the year from the 10th of June, Jupiter is blessing your partnerships, blessing your relationships. If you're single, you can meet somebody and get into a new committed relationship. You can have more options in relationships, Capricorn. It can also be that if you're in a relationship, you grow it. You have a family together, you move in together, you get married. Maybe you decide you want to travel more with your partnership or relationship. But it's a great source of joy and happiness and blessings in the second half of the year. So frustrations in the beginning of the year may actually help you to make changes that bless you later when it comes to your partnerships and your relationships, Capricorn. Jupiter is going to be in your 6th house for the first half of the year, which means that you can receive a lot of blessings and abundance through your job, through your work. You could get promoted in your workplace. You could have more opportunities to travel, to learn through work, to expand your education. You could get on better with co-workers. You could get on better with your employees with Jupiter going through the 6th house, and it can be a great time to attract job and role changes and opportunities, Capricorn. Now, there's a Venus retrograde this year, and it's going to be going through your 4th house and your 3rd house. The Venus retrograde period in your 4th house, if you are looking to buy property this year, I would not recommend that you do it between the 2nd of March to the 27th of March when Venus is retrograde in your sector of home and family. You can fall out with family at this time. You can have more issues when it comes to decorating your home. Don't buy anything for your home during this period, not even a cushion, not even a spoon. You'll regret it later. And that's an exaggeration about the spoon thing, but I'm just making the point that your tastes will change at that time period, and anything that you buy for your home or any changes that you make to your home's aesthetic, you'll probably wonder why you bought it later. At least that's been my experience. Venus going retrograde through your 3rd house from the 27th of March to the 12th of April can be quite testing for your relationship with a sibling, neighbours. These areas can be more prone to friction. It can also be helping you rethink how you communicate with others, Capricorn. You may have a few social faux pas during this period. But as I say, the 3rd house is also where you're growing and developing this year. So some misunderstandings and miscommunications can actually be fruitful, and that it can help you learn more about what to do, what not to do, what to say, what not to say. Especially if you're, as I said, on the online spaces, or you're a writer or a communicator, maybe for your profession, Capricorn. There's going to be eclipses activating your 3rd house and your 9th house, so there may be fated opportunities to travel generally this year. When it comes to long-term travel, we have a total lunar eclipse in March and a partial solar eclipse in September. These may be times when you're focusing on traveling, maybe traveling with family in the first half of the year, and in the second half of the year, Capricorn, you may actually be traveling for work. That can be something that comes up as an opportunity this year. But certainly whenever you travel during this year, you may find that if you're going abroad, you're maybe going back to somewhere you've been before. You're wanting to go back. There's nostalgia. Or if you're going somewhere new, you get there and you feel like you've been there before. You think, I feel like I've walked these streets. I've seen this town. And it may be because you had a past life there previously. Capricorn. But that is what I have for you this year. I also just want to mention before I go, actually, with the 3rd house, 9th house, you may have fated opportunities when it comes to your studying. So taking courses that teach you a lot, that point you in new directions. Some of you might be wrapping up master's degrees in general. You may be getting your degree officially this year, graduating, that type of thing can also come up when we have eclipses in the 3rd and the 9th. Or starting university can also be something we have with eclipses in the 3rd and the 9th. You're going to want to learn a lot this year, and it's going to bring you a lot of opportunities to learn, and maybe for some of you more opportunities to teach. That is what I have for you, Capricorn, and I will talk to you soon. Hi Aquarius, welcome to your 2025 horoscope. Happy New Year, Aquarius. So, Aquarius, I want to mention both your traditional ruling planet, Saturn, and your modern ruling planet, Uranus, are changing signs in 2025. Now, Saturn is beginning in Pisces, it's moving into Aries, and then it's retrograding back into Pisces. Uranus is starting the year in Taurus, entering Gemini, and then retrograding back into Taurus again. So your ruling planets are quite active this year, and they're bringing different flavors to your life. So I want to start with Saturn because Saturn is going to be in Pisces until the 25th of May and returns to Pisces on the 1st of September. And this is also where the North Node is going to be. The North Node is going to be in Pisces from January. So, with your traditional ruling planet and the North Node being in your second house, there's a big financial focus for you this year, Aquarius. This can bring financial growth into your life, it can bring new ways of making money. It can bring new priorities when it comes to your finances, your priorities in terms of what you're spending your money on, what you're saving your money for. Saturn oftentimes brings a bit of a restrictive energy, but that can oftentimes be because we have financial commitments that are quite important to us. So maybe you're saving for a home, maybe you're saving for a wedding, maybe you're saving for your child or something of that nature. But it can simply feel a little bit like we have financial commitments, whether that be your mortgage, your bills, whatever the case may be. So we're not as financially free at times with Saturn going through the second house. And with the North Node there, you may actually find this year that there's new ways of making money, or there's new important things that you're putting your money into, spending your money on, for example. But I do think for a lot of you, it can bring significant financial changes this year. We do have a total lunar eclipse happening in your financial sector in September, and it's going to be ruled by Jupiter in your sixth house. And this can mean that perhaps your work situation is changing in a way that affects your finances, maybe your role title, maybe where you're working could all be changing in the second half of the year, and that may influence your finances somewhat, Aquarius. It doesn't have to be that, but it can be just simply that there are financial shifts in place for you in 2025. And I think a lot of it is focused on Saturn in terms of, being more responsible, more committed to your financial situation. And oftentimes people do find that whenever they come out of a Saturn in the second house transit, that they've actually saved more money than usual because they have that Saturnian mentality when it comes to being financially responsible. But I do think with the North Node, it can offer these new opportunities, these fated new opportunities to find new ways of making money or to grow your finances in some way. A lot of your focus this year will be on your finances, Aquarius. And with the South Node going through the eighth house, you may find yourself wanting to be more financially independent, even if you're married. You may find that you're wanting to change the way that you work in a financial relationship of any kind, whether that be changes to your mortgage, to your debt, to your loans. Some of you with the South Node going through the eighth house may be very focused on clearing out debt or healing your relationship to your financial situation. It can sometimes bring about changes in your partner's financial situation if you have them. If you have one, but it can also be that maybe you do with the South Node going through the eighth, you let go of some fears surrounding money. You work through something on a psychological level. Oftentimes, when the South Node goes through the eighth house, this can be a time of releasing fears, facing fears, and sort of getting into this place where you really want to go deep into your psyche. It's not just financial. Your priorities may shift. When the North Node goes through the second house, you have more opportunities, sometimes out of nowhere, to increase your financial situation. And this can be something that really helps you grow and expand and develop on your destiny. It can be leading you to a new path because of financial changes, essentially. Now, Saturn going into Aries from the 25th of May to the 1st of September, you may notice that your financial situation improves the most in this time period, Aquarius, because Saturn's out of your second house. You might notice, though, that when it comes to what you're communicating, you may be more careful with your words. There can also be some testing or limitations or restrictions when it comes to your relationship to your siblings. You may have a sibling going through a tough time, or you may find that your relationship to your siblings is limited in some way. Maybe they move abroad, maybe they're going through something. with Saturn being there and you find that there's a bit of a distance or you need to assert a boundary. It can also be that you commit deeper to your relationship to your siblings and that you maybe are doing something together, maybe starting a business together, maybe collaborating on something. You know, Saturn does bring restrictions and tests, but it can also bring commitments and responsibilities as well. Now, with Saturn going through the third house as well, you might actually be wanting to commit yourself to learning something. You might feel this desire to learn a subject, learn a language, learn something that helps you improve your life. You may be more interested in taking a short course for your own personal development, and you may be doing this quite independently, Aquarius. Neptune is also going to enter Aries this year before retrograding back into Pisces. Neptune in Aries for you from the 30th of March to the 22nd of October. Neptune going through your third house can be where, you maybe go to some, I want to say like a workshop, or you learn something that could be quite spiritual in nature or could be quite healing in nature. This is where you may go to a workshop where you study something that is spiritual. It can be that there's nothing, Neptune is a spiritual planet and it's very psychic and intuitive. So you can notice yourself having a bit more of a psychic, intuitive connection with a sibling, with a neighbor, or getting involved in something locally that is of that tone. But it doesn't manifest that way for everybody. It can be that you notice a sibling as maybe for some of you battling something. Maybe they're going through a health issue, maybe they're going through an addiction issue, or maybe they're going through a situation where you sort of feel like you need to help them wake up a bit. It feels as though with Neptune going through the third house, though, that when it comes to your relationship to people locally to you, you're feeling more compassion and you're maybe feeling a bit more of a sense of connecting and healing with others. So that can be healing your relationship to your siblings. That can be healing your relationship to your neighbors, forgiving your neighbors for something, or it can be healing your relationship to your cousins, your aunts, your uncles, those types of things. But I do think for some of you, it could be a spiritual workshop or sort of, it may also be, it's tricky with this one because Saturn's there too, which is a very different energy, but sometimes it can be where we want to escape our commitments to learning and we want to escape our local neighborhood, but we have commitments and we have boundaries in place with Saturn. So we can't escape as much as we want with Neptune there. Now, Uranus for you, Aquarius, Uranus has been in your fourth house since 2018, 2019, and Uranus going through your fourth house could have brought unexpected changes in your living situation, sudden moves, unpredictability in your home and your family. You may have moved unexpectedly, maybe to somewhere you never saw yourself living, or you were surprised that you moved there. There was a bit of fluctuation. Your family situation may have changed unexpectedly at points. There could have been surprises in that sector for you. And if you are a late degree Aquarius, so we're looking at like 23 to 29 of Aquarius, there is still potential that you may experience changes in your living situation this year. There could be unpredictable moments there, but Uranus is also entering your fifth house this year. Uranus going through Gemini from the 7th of July to the 8th of November. There can be unexpected developments, changes, plot twists, surprising turns when it comes to your creative endeavors. So if you're an artist, if you're a creative person, you may have sudden inspiration, you may make sudden changes, you might want to rebrand your art, and you may be craving more independence in that area. It can also be that when it comes to your love life, there's surprises there, surprisingly falling in love, surprisingly falling out of love, or surprising romantic energies coming and going in your life. But it can also be for some of you that this is to do with your children. Your children might surprise you in this time period. They might shock you. For some, it can be an unexpected pregnancy. I have seen that notoriously for Capricorn risings since 2018 who have had Uranus going through their fifth house. The amount of shock, surprise pregnancies that have happened is quite uncanny, so be mindful of that. But it can also be that your children surprise you in some way, or they're rebelling. They're going through their rebellious phase. They're wanting to assert their own independence with Uranus going through the fifth house can also be something that occurs there. So those are what your ruling planets are doing, Aquarius. As I said, there's a big focus this year on your finances. There's a Venus retrograde, which is also affecting your third and second house, and that's from the 2nd of March to the 12th of April. This can be a time where there's maybe some issues in your relationship to neighbors, siblings, cousins, aunts, uncles, that type of thing, to classmates, if you're in a class with somebody. This is not the best time to commit to a course because you may have, changes with Venus retrograde going on there. You might actually not like it as much. You might not like the people. You might not like the teachers. You may also have some buyer's remorse if you are purchasing anything through this time period. So be mindful of what you're buying or what you're spending your money on in this time period as well, Aquarius. Now, I also want to mention your sixth house of health, routines, and your job, because Mars is going to retrograde in that sector from the 6th of January to the 24th of February, Mars having been retrograde since December. It retrogrades back into Cancer. And during this time period, you might get really frustrated with your colleagues, the people that you work with, the people that you employ. They may be sources of frustration. Your job may be sources of frustration. Your health may also be a source of frustration. You might feel uncomfortable. You might find that you're not running on full power. It might be more likely that you get a cold or you're not well, you're run down with Mars retrograde in this sector for you. And although that sounds very frustrating, Aquarius, this sector is going to be very blessed in the second half of the year. So from the 10th of June onwards into, middle of 2026, you're going to be finding that this sector actually becomes very blessed. So your working relationships, your daily routines, your health gets a real boost with Jupiter going through there. It can be a great time to start a new job. I think for a lot of you around the eclipse in September, you could be starting a new job. You could find a job that's really positive for you. You get a lot of benefits. You like your coworkers, you like your employees. You can find that your work is going really well. You could be really enjoying health and fitness at this time, getting, your health in order, really enjoying that sector of life, really enjoying taking care of your health and finding the right people. If you're looking for doctors, if you're looking for advisors, Jupiter can bring you really well-educated people in that topic of life. So if it's nutrition, if it's exercise, if it's health, if it's well-being, you're more likely to connect with people who can help you, Aquarius, especially in the second half of the year. It doesn't even have to be that necessarily you love the work that you're doing so much. It can be, but I just want to make the point that sometimes Jupiter going through a particular, going through the sixth house, it can just be that you get really good benefits lifestyle wise from where you're working. So you just might notice in the second half of the year that your routine, your daily life is actually really enjoyable for you. And if you're into health and you're into fitness, you'll really enjoy the second half of the year. Jupiter going through the fifth house for the first half of the year brings blessings when it comes to your children, when it comes to pregnancies, births. Some of you might be getting pregnant, giving birth in the first half of the year. And it can also be that it's easier for you to find romantic options, to date, to enjoy that sector of life, to have more fun, to have more romance in your life, to find that that area of life is expansive for you. It's easier to meet someone romantically, it's easier to fall in love, it's easier to get along with your children. Those types of things go very well in the first half of the year. And if you are a creative person, again, this is a beautiful time of creativity. You can do some of your best creative work when Jupiter is going through your fifth house. I suppose it would be strange if I didn't mention, Aquarius, that Pluto is, of course, in your sign all year. And Pluto is going to be getting on very well with Saturn, with Neptune, and with Uranus as they enter these new signs this year. So you may find that you personally are changing, and it's positively impacting the different areas that it's interacting with. So, as I said, your siblings, your neighbors, your learning. It can also be your romantic life, your children, your creativity. It can be, just that this year you notice that you're really feeling like you're able to make some positive changes yourself and you're taking back your power when it comes to new developments in other areas of your life. You're feeling like a valued contributor to your own life and your own story. With Pluto going through your sign, this is all about empowering yourself to take control, to take leadership, to be true to yourself. And being true to yourself in the Plutonian sense is to not, it's not going to be as easy to act in a way that dishonors yourself. You're going to have to be very true to who you are. And that can sometimes be quite difficult because it can mean you actually have to do some self-discovery and some shadow work and some healing with Pluto going through your sign. But you will be changing all the time as a person, Aquarius. And I think with the harmonious connections this year to those other outer planets, you're going to really notice that you're able to make more positive changes in your life, especially with other areas of your life as well, Aquarius. Now, With the lunar eclipse and the solar eclipse happening this year in Virgo, which for you is your 8th house, you may find this year that there are, as I said, financial changes when it comes to your partner, when it comes to their finances, but it can also be tax related, it can be mortgage, loan, your financial affairs that involve the government. There can be changes there. So that can be how much you're paying in tax can change this year. It can be that you're committing to paying off debt this year. But it can also be very psychological. And with Pluto in your sign, you're probably going to be more interested in the psychological sides of yourself, Aquarius. And you could very well be working with a therapist, or even in some cases a shaman or an astrologer, but you're essentially really looking to dig into your own psyche, your own soul, and get to know yourself that little bit better so that you can be true to yourself. When it comes to relationships for you, Aquarius, this year, as I mentioned, Jupiter going through the 5th house in the first half is a beautiful time for finding love, falling in love, and expanding your romantic life. When it comes to partnerships, there's a bit of a challenge with Mars retrograde in Leo. That has been going on since December, but Mars will be retrograde in Leo until the 6th of January. And I just want to mention it because it could be a challenging time in relationships when it comes to arguments and disagreements. But for the most part, for you, Aquarius, relationship changes may occur around the time of solar eclipses. There's a solar eclipse in March and a solar eclipse in September. And these are going to be in signs that are very much to do with your values and what matters to you. So you could find that when it comes to choosing relationships this year, if you're on the lookout for love, that you're choosing people who really align with your value system. That's something that's usually very important to Aquarians generally anyway, but it might be something this year that if you do connect with somebody, it could be on those matters. That's what I have for you, Aquarius, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Pisces, welcome to your horoscope for 2025. Happy New Year, Pisces. So Pisces, this is a huge year for you, particularly Pisces risings, but this is going to affect Pisces sun and moon as well. In fact, any Pisces placement is going to be touched by the North Node this year. But this horoscope's in alignment with Pisces rising. So Pisces, the North Node is entering your sign in January, which means this is going to be quite a monumental year for you, a monumental couple of years for you. You're basically going to enter and leave 2025 as a completely different person. The North Node going through the first house is going to encourage growth and development as a person. You can often find that you're at the peak of your popularity because the North Node shows us collectively in the direction that we're going in, and it's toward Pisces energy. So you may actually find that this year you're more popular, you have more attention. You could find that you're transforming your physical appearance, your body, your appearance, your aesthetic can change this year, particularly around September, as we have a total lunar eclipse in Pisces. And this is happening the 7th of September, and it will be ruled by Jupiter in Cancer, which is your 5th house. So, one thing I want to mention for Pisceans is that your physical appearance may actually change this year because of a pregnancy for some of you. Jupiter going through the 5th house can often coincide with pregnancies and births. And eclipses in the first house tend to signify physical changes. So, for some of you, you may undergo physical changes because of a birth. With Jupiter going through the 5th house, you might actually also undergo physical changes or personality changes because you're in love, because you're having more fun and you're happier, which is good news with Jupiter going through the 5th house as well. That can change your approach to life. So I want to cover Jupiter going through the 5th house as well, more on its own, but I want to mention the activity in your first house first. So as I mentioned, the North Node is there. You're going to want to grow and develop as a person this year, and fate will encourage you to do so. Saturn is going to be in your sign, Pisces, until the 25th of May, but will return on the 1st of September. So, Saturn going through your first house tends to coincide with significant personal commitments and responsibilities. For some of you, that can be that you become a parent and you're more responsible to your children. You become responsible for another human being. With Jupiter going through the 4th house in the first half of the year, a lot of you could become homeowners. You could become more responsible to family members, to your home, to your family, to property. And as I said, in the second half of the year, this can be because you're becoming a parent or something of that nature. Now, with Saturn going through the first house, you may also be more focused on taking care of your body. So you might be more focused on eating well, working out, looking after your health. You may be wanting to counteract aging with Saturn. So you might have a really well thought through skincare routine. You might take more care when it comes to diet and exercise. With Neptune still going through your sign, Neptune will be going through your sign Pisces until the 30th of March and will return on the 22nd of October. You're very used to this energy. This is going back to 2011. Neptune is your modern ruler and it's been going through your sign. It's a pretty comfortable energy for you. It can encourage escapism, it can encourage fantasy, and it can encourage daydreaming and sometimes delusion and rose-tinted glasses. But with Saturn having been going through that sign, it's been a little bit more of a reality check for most Pisceans. Saturn and Neptune both enter your second house this year. So Saturn enters Aries on the 25th of May until the 1st of September, Neptune from the 30th of March to the 22nd of October. This is affecting your financial situation. With Saturn going through the second house, oftentimes it coincides with having significant financial commitments. So that can be homes, mortgages, children, saving for a wedding, saving for a house, saving for a specific event, being more frugal, not spending your money as lightly is going to be a theme with Saturn going through the second house. With Neptune going through the second house, that energy is quite different. This can be where you're wanting to give to charity, you're wanting to help people who need your compassion with Neptune in the second. It can also be where you're financially avoidant or evasive. But with Saturn, Saturn brings that responsibility and that commitment, and Neptune brings that love and that compassion. So it's an interesting mix we all have in our Aries houses this year, but it can also encourage you to be more loving with your money, whatever that looks like for you, Pisces. But it can, as Neptune is your modern ruler, make you more focused on your finances as well. You could be looking for ways to make money through your natural God-given talents, with Neptune being your ruler. So you may be making more money through spiritual matters with Neptune there as well, if you're a spiritual Piscean, as most Pisceans are. Your ruler, Jupiter. First half of the year until the 10th of June, Jupiter is going to be in your fourth house. You may move, you may buy a home, you may expand your family in the first half of the year. There may be more positive events or experiences within your family. You may travel with family and have positive travel experiences with family members. Jupiter enters your fifth house from the 10th of June, and Jupiter actually connects with Venus in August. The second half of the year, there's a lot of focus on your romantic life, falling in love, dating, or just falling in love with your partner over again, going on fun dates with your partner, going to more parties, having a more social life in the second half of the year. Jupiter going through the fifth is a very fun time. So you would be likely to fall in love, to go on dates, or to, for some of you, it could be pregnancy, it can be birth, particularly with that eclipse. But it can also just be simply the energy of having more fun, taking more risks, feeling more carefree and more jovial in the second half of the year, particularly in that time period where Saturn is out of your first house. So from the 10th of June to the 1st of September, you may be feeling more outgoing and lively and carefree than usual, Pisces. But speaking of love, the South Node is going through your seventh house of partnerships, and we have 2 out of the 4 eclipses happening in your seventh house this year. So there's a huge focus on partnerships and relationships as well for Pisceans. The lunar eclipse that's happening in your seventh house in March is a total lunar eclipse, and it's ruled by Mercury in your second house. There can be significant changes in your relationship because of financial matters. So maybe your financial situation is changing in alignment with your partnership changes. So maybe you're getting married and you're having to spend a lot in a wedding, or maybe you're getting engaged and you're having to discuss your values in the relationship and what marriage means to you. For some of you that are in relationships that are no longer working, as this is coinciding with the Venus retrograde in your first house, although at this time, at the point of this eclipse, it'll be in your second, some of you may be reevaluating relationships in your life when it comes to values or finances. And I think for most of you, it's values. So whether or not you're on the same page as a partner, that can also be any kind of relationship in your life, Pisces. But if you don't share the same values, if you don't feel like you're moving in the same direction, or you feel like the relationship is no longer working, that eclipse can be a time of removing a relationship from your life if it is no longer working. But it can also be a time of transforming a relationship in some way, maybe by rethinking a financial situation with Mercury retrograde in Aries. Now, the solar eclipse that's happening in Virgo in September, ruled by Mercury in your 8th house, that can bring about a new partnership in your life. And it doesn't always have to coincide exactly with the eclipse, but this year can absolutely bring a new fated partnership. I know of 3 people who met their spouses when the South Node was transiting their 7th house, and I know of 2 people who met their spouse when the North Node was going through their 7th house. The first house, 7th house eclipses tend to bring about fated relationships, fated partnerships, significant partnerships that change the course of your destiny. So that might be suggesting that this is the year you could meet someone very significant in your path, someone that you marry, someone that you enter a committed relationship with. It can also be a year where if you're in a relationship it's not working, it can end, but the eclipses actually happen quite frequently in the 7th house, and people can stay married for their whole lives. So don't assume that that's what it's going to be. Don't enter it with that headspace if it's something that you hear and then you get worried. It can actually just simply be that there's changes in your partner's life that changes the relationship in some way. So say they get a job overseas and you guys have to move. It can be that. It doesn't have to be the end, if that's something that you're concerned about. Because I hear other horoscopes and I understand that sometimes it sounds a bit more scary than it has to be. Obviously, it'd be different for everybody, but it does tend to bring about changes in your relationships and how you relate to other people. And I will say as well, with the South Node, the people that I know that met their spouses when the South Node was going through their 7th house met in the most unusual way. They actually all met, none of these people know each other, by the way. They all met their significant others in a different country and really out of the blue. So it's that fated component of the nodes. South Node just seems to make it kind of a soul connection you can't really escape. You've a past life together and you have a new life together kind of energy. So if you're single and you're looking for love, the second half of the year in particular suggests a lot of fated activity in your romantic life with Jupiter in the 5th and the eclipses in the 7th. Other things that are happening for you, Pisces, the Venus retrograde is going to affect you quite significantly. Venus is retrograde in your 2nd house from the 2nd of March to the 27th of March. This is a time not to spend too much money. You'll regret it later. Review your finances. Reflect on any negative financial habits that you may be possessing, which is good to do before Saturn enters there in the middle of the year. Venus is retrograde in your sign from the 27th of March to the 12th of April. And this might be a time to save your money when it comes to your appearance. Don't be getting any work done on your appearance. No tattoos, no significant changes, because you'll probably not like the results or change your mind later. With Venus ruling aesthetics and going through your 1st house in retrograde, Venus in Pisces is ordinarily a lovely transit. But in retrograde, it can mean that things don't work out quite as you wanted them to when it comes to appearance. So even buying clothes or makeup or things like that, you might change your mind later, Pisces. Uranus is going through your 3rd house until the 7th of July and returns to your 3rd house on the 8th of November. Uranus going through your 3rd house has brought a lot of unexpected changes when it comes to your siblings, cousins, aunts, uncles, also your neighbors, also your learning. But Uranus is entering Gemini on the 7th of July until the 8th of November, which is your 4th house. So with Jupiter being in your 4th house until June and then Uranus entering there in July, a lot of you may move this year. You may change residence. For some of you, middle of the year, it could be unexpected. There could be an unexpected move. You could purchase property this year with Jupiter being there, but you may have unexpected plot twists when it comes to your home, your family, and your living situation in the middle of the year, especially if you're an early Pisces rising degree. You might notice that there's some surprising developments happening in your home and family. You may also find for some of you that you unexpectedly move abroad this year, or you unexpectedly purchase property abroad for some Pisces risings. There could be a new way of making money from the solar eclipse in Aries on the 29th of March. It's ruled by Mars in your 5th house, Pisces, so you may be making money through your creativity this year or a creative talent that you haven't used yet. There could be a brand new way of making money for you. But that is what I have for you, Pisces. I hope you have a wonderful year, and I will talk to you soon.